Good morning. Hi, hi, hi. It is Rashida, and I am here today with my extra special guest, Libby's.
Hi.
Hi, hi, hi. Okay,
Okay.
so a lot of y'all are here already, which tells me that you know what we're doing today and who I'm talking to. I'm talking to the very, very special Libryia Jones, who is not only my homegirl, Phoebe's
Hey.
online streets, but also like the queen of remote work. So today, we're talking about something very specific. So last time she was here 8 months ago, 14,000 of you have watched this video, as she pointed out yesterday. We talked about how to find remote work, right? So getting
Mhm.
remote jobs. And that video is still up on this channel and available. But today, I want to just have a more expansive conversation about what remote jobs can look like in your life and how you can build your life around remote jobs. One of the things I love about Libryia is that I see her living the life that most people think remote work looks like, and it doesn't actually look like that when they are working remotely. And so I want to talk to her about how you make your remote, like that vision you have of remote work, how you make that actually come true in real life. So thank you for being here, Livria.
No problem. Thanks for having me back. I will say also, a lot of people got catapulted into working remotely during the pandemic. And so it's just never occurred to them that they could do this outside of their house, right? Because again,
Right.
remember during the pandemic, like we were all literally stuck at home, right? We were just stuck at home. And they were like, is this what remote work is? This sucks. This is what y'all been talking about? And so I think that, it's really important to open people's eyes up, especially folks that are really new and got pushed into working remotely because of the pandemic, just opening their eyes to like, oh, by the way, you don't have to do this within your four walls either. Now that the
Right.
world is opened up.
Okay. So my mom is in the comments talking about she's on her way to Margaritaville. And I just like it's 10
Okay,
a.m. It's 10
okay,
a.m.
Mama.
Here
It's
you
five
are.
o'clock somewhere.
Listen, I'm like, okay, all
Go
right.
ahead, Mama.
Listen, I just I want to know. Okay, all right. So we're not on our way to Margaritaville. We're on our way to talk for a while. So okay, y'all. You know the deal. If you have comments or questions, drop them in the comment box. If you're watching this on the replay, hit those comments and tell us hi. Tell us what you want to know, what you do know. Have you gotten a remote job? I got the best reply this morning to a story. A woman who watched this video last time, and I think she got your bundle, your remote work bundle.
Uh-huh,
And
uh-huh.
then she got a remote job. She got a remote job.
Good for her. She needs to reach out to me so I can send her something.
Okay. All
I can
right.
send her a little congratulations.
I'll let her know. Yes, she said yes. I watched that video and now I have a remote job and she's coming to the Quit Commuting Conference. Which
Excellent.
hi, let's talk about that for a second because let's
Yeah.
start. Okay, so Libria and her partner. Is it Dethra or Dethra?
Deetra.
Dethra.
Yeah.
Okay,
Deetra. Deetra.
Libria.
I don't even, the H doesn't do anything. It's Deetra.
Dethra.
Yeah.
Dethra. Okay. All right. Dethra and Libria are the co-founders of the Quit Commuting Conference, which is
Hmm.
exactly what it sounds like. It is
Yeah.
to get you to quit commuting, live your best life from your living room if you want, or out in those friendly skies if you want to. So, um, Libria's focus really is on getting people the remote work opportunities that they want. And so I want to talk a little bit about what the conference is going to do and if it's different in any way than it was last year.
Yeah. So, yes and yes. So, first of all, what the conference does is maximizes impact. So, I don't know if you guys know this, but I have this crazy goal to help 10,000 moms find and land remote work so that they can show up for their families in the way they desire, right? So, you can raise your families the way you want to. I definitely remember my daughter being 3 years old and I needed an extra job, wanted to make a little extra money, I wanted a side hustle. But a lot of times, moms, single moms especially, have to choose between family and finances, right? And so being able to work remotely meant that I didn't have to choose between being around my daughter and making extra money. I can make extra money from home with my
Mhm.
daughter, right? And so wanting to help 10,000 moms find and land remote work, really got to think about like, how can I make it an impact that's going to help reach that goal, right? And so the Quit Commuting Conference was one of the things I thought of to kind of bring a large group of people together and expose them to thought leaders in the remote workspace, to HR professionals, to career experts that can teach them exactly what they need to do. And a lot of the things that I teach in the bundle as well, in the Remote Ready bundle, and in the Quick Commuting Academy. And the coup de grace, the cherry on top, is bringing recruiters to the conference as well. And so I know a lot of people have trouble reaching out to recruiters and, sliding recruiters DMs on LinkedIn. I love to say that recruiters on LinkedIn are basically like IG models, right? Like everybody up in their DMs. Everybody in their DMs, y'all. So here's an opportunity to meet with recruiters in a different space, right? And connect and network with some of those recruiters. I actually talked to somebody last week. Someone commented on a live session last week saying she actually met a recruiter at that conference, and that person actually connected her with another recruiter to help her get a job. So amazing connections are being made at that conference. And so the purpose of the conference basically is to, one, open your minds to what's possible for you, give you the tools and the information that you need to land remote work, and connect you with actual recruiters. It's different this year because I'm really excited about how we adjusted the schedule this year. Day one, we're talking about aspirational things. So Rashida's going to talk about living her best life abroad. And she's on she's on a panel with several other people that are living around the world. My friend who lives in Thailand, another friend who lives in Spain. And then, so day one is all about like, here's what's possible. Here's what's available to you. Day two is all workshops. So it's like practical tips and workshops. And what we did differently this year was, I know we focus a lot on finding remote jobs, but there are multiple ways to be remote. And so there's a track that's about remote work, and then there's a track that's about freelancing as well. So we talk about how to become a freelancer, what platforms to use, how to set your prices as a freelancer, how to build proposals as a freelancer as well, because we want you to know that there are multiple ways and options for you to work remotely. That was a really long answer.
No, I love it, but I got distracted by the comments because one of the places or one of the industries where I hear people all the time say they can't find remote work is healthcare. And Kalia is in the comments showing out. Ow, ow, ow. Okay, I mentioned Libryia last week.
Oh my goodness.
She got the job and starts tomorrow.
I remember you said this, and we were like, good luck. We're so excited. Thank you for following up. Hold on. I got to take a picture of this. No. I got to take a picture. Oh my God. Congratulations, Kalia.
Yes.
I'm going to let you get started. I'm going to let you, get onboarded. And then a couple of weeks in, please come back and do a live with me so that we can share with the people that you can work remotely in healthcare. We be trying to tell the people. We be trying to tell them. Congratulations. That's amazing.
The remote work is there. And so I asked for questions before we went live here, and someone, let me make sure I have it right, but they started off, they're not really a question. It was a question. But they started off with like the country they're in. And I'm like, I don't know. Like they didn't say what they do. And I guess they want to be a virtual assistant. All right. So the question is India. My job pays $340 a month. Mm-hmm. Is it possible to get a virtual assistant job that pays at least $1,000 a month?
That's a very specific question. So
that is, isn't it?
Yeah, super specific. So I have a few things. So I think this person pointed out that they're in India for two reasons. One, the cost of living and the rate of pay is going to be different, right? Mm-hmm. In a country like India. The other reason that people point out where they are is because a lot of folks don't think that there are remote jobs that are available depending on what country you're in, right? They're like, oh, all the remote jobs are for US people. Not true.
Right.
Not true. There are US-based companies that have global workforces that B, there are global companies that have global workforces. So there's a lot of companies that hire around the world. The second thing I will call out is that virtual assistant, the great thing about being a virtual assistant or an operations manager is what I like to say as well. So in my mind, an operations manager is like a level up. So once you've been a virtual assistant for a long time, and a lot of times virtual assistants do administrative tasks, data entry, managing email inboxes. Once you've done that for a while, I think it's time to elevate yourself to an operations manager. And the way I look at an operations manager is you can truly own projects, right? So I can give my operations manager a project or a process to completely own and just report back to me on how things are going. Right. So once you've been a virtual assistant for a long enough time, you can get to that point where you're like an ops manager. Actually, Sheeta, you interviewed one of my friends who was an ops manager, as a freelancer, Raven.
Okay.
Raven in Mexico. So she's done that for a while too. So that said, the great thing about virtual assistant is it is so flexible. You can actually work for a company that does virtual assistants, right? Assistant work. Toptal is one company that hires contractors that work as virtual assistants.
What's the name of the company?
Toptal, Toptal, Toptal. And I think they hire throughout all over the world. Belay Solutions, Belay, Belay, like belaying on a mountain. They hire virtual assistants, but they only hire in the US and they hire in specific states as well. The cool thing is that you can work for a company. So for instance, you could work for Amazon as someone's virtual assistant, right? You could work in contract for companies like Topto or Belay, or you could freelance and do it on your own, or you can start a business and have other virtual assistants working for you. That's what I love about virtual assistant. Like there's so many options. As far as the pay goes, I'm going to direct you to someone who teaches a course and teaches people how to build virtual assistant businesses. And B, she has been in these internet and remote work streets talking about pay equity specifically for virtual assistants. She talks because people can hire a virtual assistant in the Philippines for $3 an hour, right? Easily. But her thing is, why would you do that when you would pay someone in the US? It's the same skills, right? So she talks a lot about pay equity across the board. And her name is Hannah Dixon. And she does, her company is called Digital Nomad Kit.
Is that Kit? Yeah. Okay.
Digital Nomad Kit. So for the person that asked that question, I want you to check out Digital Nomad Kit. Connect with Hannah. She has a Facebook group. She can talk to you about what you need to do to kind of raise your rates and how to get there. I think she has a course on all of this. And I think she would be an excellent, excellent resource for you.
Okay, and I'm dropping her link here. Okay, so actually, when this conversation started, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about pay equity because when I saw the question originally, I thought lots of like, you don't have to work for a large company to be a virtual assistant. Like there are lots of solo practitioners, there are lots of entrepreneurs who need a good virtual assistant who will easily pay you this much money a week if you're doing work and they're paying you, a fair rate.
Yeah.
But there is also a lot of advice online about, if you need a virtual assistant, just go to the Philippines and hire someone for $3 an hour. And it's never sit well. It just doesn't sit well with me. Like there's something about that feels less than kosher, right? Like, because you're getting paid, a lot of times people are outsourcing. So they're getting paid in US dollars to do, we're getting paid US rates to do whatever it is they're offering. And then they're paying these super low rates outside to either outsource part of the work that they were paid to do or to help in some other way.
Yeah.
And it's like I know the cost of living varies from place to place. And so people in other places might not need as much money, but it doesn't feel like it is a good and sustainable practice for your business to pay people the least amount of money possible and try to get the most out of them. And so I've always been like,
it's the whole pay equity, global pay equity conversation is not an easy conversation to have. Like, there's no easy solve, right? Because we also don't want to shake up economies to the point where a virtual assistant in the Philippines is making more than a doctor in the Philippines, right? And so then what happens is all the doctors are like, well, shit, I should be a virtual assistant, right? And now we have a doctor shortage. So there's like this, and that's a super simplified example, but there is this balance that we need to strike as well, right? So what I'd say is, as an entrepreneur or as a business owner, our goal is to maximize our revenues. And to that extent, we want to lower our expenses. But I think that there's a trade-offs in some cases for value and money. Because a lot of times if you're going to if you're just out here like, let me just find somebody to do this that I can pay $3 an hour, the level of quality that you may get may be different, right? And so I think that there is a case to be made for, I'm willing to pay more for someone to do more complex work, or to take more ownership. If it's just somebody I need to go and copy and paste some stuff, I'm down to pay the rates that are stated. And I think it's a tough situation for someone like in India, someone even in the US who wants to be a virtual assistant, because now you're competing with people that can charge $3 an hour. I will say every single time I've hired somebody and paid them less than, $5 an hour, it's the quality of work has not been there. So pay the people, right? My graphic designer is located in the Philippines, and I love her story. She makes way more than most graphic designers, most people, because she charges higher. She charges less than people in the US, but she charges a lot higher. And she's been able to, as a result, she's a single mom. She's got 3 kids. She's been able to buy a house for her children. Last year, she shared her Christmas pictures where she was able to buy her kids all these Christmas gifts. And that's something that she would never have been able to do making $3 an hour, Right. So, I definitely think that there's something to be said for, there is a difference in cost of living. So there will be a difference in pay, and also like, there's nothing wrong with upping that what you're willing to pay. Doesn't have to be like, I'm going to pay this person $1,000 or $500 an hour or anything like that. But I think there's something to be said for increasing the amount of compensation to the point of the expectations. Right. If I'm expecting you to work, I need to pay you for it.
Since we're speaking today to a lot of remote workers, that might also mean that even if you're not in a place where the general pay for your job is high, or as high as you'd like it to be, or as high as you need it to be, if you aren't working for a company, but if you're freelancing, like, it's time to consider those rates. And are you charging for the work you're doing, right? Are you charging right for the work you're doing, which is a thing that almost all of us get wrong, right? Like, charging the right rate for the work you do.
Yeah.
That is a challenge.
It is a challenge. And that's the other thing, like, you have to remind people, like, a lot of people said it doesn't feel ethical. As a true Libra, I can argue both sides of anything, right? So it feels icky to pay somebody $3. Also, they set that price. That's a price they set, right? So I fall on a couple of places on that scale, and I think a lot of times they're charging those prices because they're just trying to be competitive.
Yeah, and that's hard too, right? Like, it's hard to know that if you charge more, like, if everyone is used to people in the paying a VA in the Philippines $3 an hour, if you're charging $5, you might not get any work, right? But how do you balance that out? All right, so let's get back to it. All right, so since the last time I saw you, I don't think you were in Tulsa yet, were you?
Yeah, I was here. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I was here. I think I had probably just gotten to 8 months. I think I had just gotten here because I looked at the video and like I was sitting over here and it was still dark. I didn't have my lights yet. Yeah, it was here because the blue wall isn't in that video.
Okay.
From my old house.
Right. But you have been in Tulsa a lot. I'm gonna call you out real quick. You moved to Tulsa through Tulsa Remote.
Yep.
Is that right?
The Tulsa Remote program. So they paid me to move here for a year. They paid me $10,000 to come and stay here for a year.
Ooh, and your year is ticking away.
Yeah. So I moved here July 1st. I got here July 1st. So yeah, I'm getting real close to being at a year.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not going to ask the question. I'll move on. You have not really been in Tulsa a lot. You've been, flying the friendly skies. You were in Guatemala. Mm-hmm. You've been back to Atlanta. You've been all over the place. But your work hasn't, like, you got a promotion too, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did get a promotion last February. I got a promotion. It's a role that they've been after me to do for like 2 years. So I finally was like, okay, fine, let's do this. Okay.
All right. Okay. So, how do you manage working remotely and doing good work and not always being at home, right? Like traveling where you want. Because I know I see you traveling, but I also know that there are times when you're like, I've seen you Saturday night
Yeah.
getting work done, right? To make stuff happen. So what are the things that you have implemented into your work life to sort of create a really good remote work experience for yourself?
So I'd say, and I've been doing this for almost 13 years, right? So working and I took a group of people around the world for a whole year. So we traveled and worked for a whole year anyway, too, right? So, I mean, for me, it's just about being really clear on what my priorities are from a high level. At the end of the day, it's cute to be on the gram. I think I actually posted this a couple of weeks ago while I was in Colombia. I went to a co-working space and I was like working my tail off. And I was like, listen, it's cute. You know, travel photos and travel videos is real cute for the gram. What is not cute is getting fired. Let's make work a priority. Right. And so I always have it top of mind that my job is what's funding my ability to travel. Right. If I didn't have
Mhm.
this job, I wouldn't be in these Guatemala streets, in these Colombia streets, in these friendly skies, as you mentioned it. And so it's really important to me to be mindful of the fact that I have to prioritize work. I have to prioritize the work that needs to get done. And I think a lot of people are like, well, how do you balance this on a day to day basis? I don't think there's a such thing as balance on a daily basis, right? One day
Right.
I'm giving more of myself to work. Another day I'm giving more of myself to my daughter. Another day I'm giving more of myself to me. And so I think it's really important to just be clear on any given day, like what levers do you need to pull, right? Where do I need to focus my attention? And so I don't mind saying that I'm sitting in Cancun and I'm on my computer all day. I don't mind saying that because I know that once I get off my computer, I can walk to the beach,
Okay.
right? Because I could be on my computer all day just in my house. Because a lot of people are like, I mean, why bother to travel if you're going to be working all day? Well, I mean, when I get off, the beach is right there. If I'm at
Right.
home, Tulsa ain't got no beach. So, I like Janine said that's true. Every day is depending on what needs to get done, and so on any given day, it's really just about me prioritizing. So, like this weekend, I'm working all weekend because I have a 3-day conference coming up. So I've got to prioritize that, and I think it's so important to be clear on what are things that are true priorities, right? So I'm not giving up my free time and my ability to enjoy, traveling for busy work
Right.
either. So the things that I focus on are like I've got a client presentation on Tuesday. So I want to get all my ducks in a row to make sure that presentation happens. And then there's some other little things that are like, I could get this done, but it's not a priority. So you got to be really good about prioritizing your work from a standpoint of like what's most important and why. If you know why it's most important, then it's much easier. If you know why you're doing the work, it's much easier to prioritize.
Um, I'd like you to answer this question in a way that does not jeopardize your job. Have you dropped balls? Have there been places where you're like, oh, I thought this was going to be like I thought this was going to work in this remote fashion, but I wasn't able to get something, maybe a delayed flight or something
Yeah.
else had you like
Yeah.
stuck.
So I'll say I'm very comfortable being transparent. There's aside from like calling my CEO out of his name, there's not much I can do to jeopardize my job. Because I'll
All
say this,
right.
I I'm really good at what I do. I'm really good at what I do. I have really great relationships at work, and a part of that is I am very comfortable admitting when I've done something wrong or when I've dropped a ball. I'm very comfortable doing that at work. There have been times where it's like, actually, Colombia, when I went to go get my hair braided, I was supposed to be on a client call. And it was the first call with the client. It was going to be
Mhm.
my initial call with the client, for them to introduce me to say, hey, this is who's going to run your project. And I was out getting my hair braided. And I was trying to get back, and they have internet at the braiding salon, but they're playing music in there and they're talking and they're, it's a braiding salon. So I was like, I need to hurry up and get back to my place so I can get on this meeting. Well, they took like an extra hour and a half to braid my hair. I got there 30 minutes late, and then they took an extra hour and a half to braid my hair. It took way longer than I thought it would take. And trying to get back to my apartment, the meeting started. I think the first 10 minutes of the meeting, I was in an Uber, stuck in traffic because it was like rush hour. So I'm like stuck in traffic trying to join the call on my phone, and it just was not working. I completely dropped. By the time I actually got to my place and got on the call, it was only like 10 minutes left. I was so embarrassed. I still jumped on and, my happy, cheerful self and said, hey, and my boss was on the call. It was funny. It's her client and she's handing them over to me.
Okay.
So like the whole time I'm like, God dang it. So completely dropped the ball on that. But it's important to know, one, it's important to be honest, right? When you've done something wrong. And so I sent an email to my boss and my project managers, like, listen, I'm so sorry about this. Completely didn't expect this, blah, 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 blah. And then figure out how to fix it. So what's your next move, right? Because you are not your mistakes. You are not the balls that you dropped. It's about how are you going to pick that up and run with it, right? So anytime you watch football, if a player fumbles the ball, they are scrambling to get that ball, pick it back up, and keep running with it before somebody else does. Mm-hmm. It's about how you scramble and pick the ball back up, right? So after that, I did some other things to reach out to the client. I kind of started taking over. It's a huge turnaround. Like at this point, my boss isn't even involved in the project and client interactions anymore. So yeah, there are definitely times where it's like, I'm remote, but it's just not, it ain't working out the way I thought it would work out. And here's the thing though, I refuse to blame that on just travel, because that could happen, right at home. I've definitely been working, like my internet went out.
Right.
And I couldn't help that. So we've got to be able to be flexible. We've got to be able to apologize and move on. We got to be able to, enact a plan B, stuff like that.
Now, does your boss know that you?
Yeah, of course she does.
Not that you travel, but like you travel and you get your hair braided in the middle of the day, and you'll be in a meeting when you're in a meeting, but like you're flexible with your work time. Is that an understanding?
She didn't know literally what I was doing, but I did have like my calendar blocked off and it said personal appointment. She also follows me on IG, so like,
so she knows.
So she knew after I got my hair braided, and I'm certain when I logged in and she saw me with brand new braids, she was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? But again, I think that there's this wiggle room to have that kind of life, right? Because of the relationships that I've built at work, and because of what I like to call brand equity. I think it's so important to have brand equity at work, and your brand equity is basically how much your name gets you, right? Mm-hmm. How much leeway, how much runway, how much leverage your name gets you. And I tell people this all the time, whether you are trying to be or not, you are a brand at work. Whether you're trying to be or not, if you're the person that always shows up late, that's your brand, boo. If you always got an attitude, that's your brand. My brand at work is I get shit done. I get work done. And so they know that they can trust me to get great work done and to have a really great handle on my projects, and to build really great relationships with clients. And so when something like that happens, it's out of the ordinary because it does not match up with my brand, right?
Okay. All right. Good to know. Okay, so this comment, hey Sassy, hey Cutie Pie. She worked remotely in Aruba for 3 weeks in July, and it was amazing. Same thing you said. It actually felt amazing and refreshing to close my laptop, then go snorkeling for the rest of the day.
Absolutely.
Love that. Love it. Let's talk for a second about some of the not so good practices that we hear in these remote world working streets. And this isn't about her comment, as much as I hear people say things like, I'm just going to go, like, I don't have a remote job, but I'm going to go work remotely from somewhere else, and I'll use a VPN so my job will never find out. What are your thoughts, Libryia?
I'm gonna real quick. I'm gonna go back to eat, drink, love, Sassy's comment. I talked about how some days I'm traveling and it's a busy day. Like I'm just working all day. I think 2 of my 5 days in Medellin last month, I was just hands on keyboard, like pretty much all day. But what I love is that during lunch, I can go walk around, the streets of Medellin. It's such a nice walkable city. During lunch, I can just go walk around. I can speak Spanish. I can get some Colombian food, which is not something I can do at home. So I even don't mind being busy while I'm traveling. I really don't. And because, like you said, once you close that laptop, like you've got things that you can do. Now, let's address people basically being dishonest about their location. I'm going to say, I ain't your mama. Do you? Also, I am not about to jeopardize my livelihood just to be in these travel streets. Like, I think it's worth it to go ahead and say, let me understand what the policy is, right? Reach out to human resources and find out what their remote work policy is. And even if it's just for a couple of days, like do the work to try to understand what their policy is and what the why is, and propose your ability to either be able to work remotely permanently, or to say, I want to take a week, I want to take a couple of days and go to this place, and I don't want to use my PTO. Let's have that conversation. And when you do that, what you want to do is make sure you answer the concerns they will have. If their concern is about privacy and security of their information, let's talk about what VPN you're going to use to support that. If their concern is, like when I went to Thailand in January, I was on more projects than I needed to be on. We had just let go of a project manager, so I had to take over their projects. If you've ever worked in consulting or as an attorney or in services, you know that your allocation is like, I'm 50% allocated, I'm 100% allocated. I was 150% allocated. How? And I went to Thailand, and their concern was, how are you going to manage these projects from Thailand? And I was like, the real concern is, how am I going to manage 150% allocation? Like that, my location has nothing to do with that, right? But, here's what we're going to do. Here's who I'm going to tap in. So think first about how to address the concerns that they will have about you working abroad, so that you can give them that reassurance that those won't be issues. If the concern is your schedule, because you're going to be in Cancun kicking it, having a good time, you're going to be in Bali, like eat, pray, and loving it, or you're going to be working. Talk about what your schedule is going to look like. Go ahead and plan that out. And then say, I'll send a status report every day, or we'll schedule a check-in during this time. But I don't think it's a good idea to, I don't think it's a good idea to blatantly lie. Like, I just don't want to lose my job over a trip. You know what I'm saying? I just don't want to lose my job over a trip. Like, that's just not a good idea to me. Now, I do know some people that just don't disclose it at all. So there's the lie, there's the being dishonest, and then there's just not disclosing and hope nobody says anything. Just do it and ask for forgiveness later. It's some people's mentality. And, I just think it's risky. I think you should get an understanding of what the policy is and why that policy is in place, and see if you can address it. Is my personal thought.
And what I often tell people is, if your job wants to know, they'll know. Like if they really want to know where everybody is, your VPN ain't gonna do nothing. They will find out.
And you're not as good as you think you are.
Unless you work in their IT department is probably better at finding out than you are at hiding it. But have a backup plan. Have a backup plan if that job goes away, because there's a very good chance they're gonna be like, okay, so get a box and mail that computer back, right? And so if they don't want you working abroad, and so if you're not going to have the conversation ahead of time, be prepared. Be prepared for what happens when you no longer have that job. Like, do you have money saved? Do you need that job to be where you are? Because if so, it's not the safest idea. Do you need that job to provide for yourself, your family?
I also say, listen, if you go and find out what their policy is, and you find out their policy is not, it doesn't match up with the lifestyle that you want, it's time to go find another job. Like, if you feel like you got to lie about where you're working, this probably isn't the place for you, right? So let's just go find a place that doesn't care where you work from. And there's so many companies that don't. There's just so many companies out there that really don't care where you work from. So feel free to go and find the companies that don't care. And that way you don't have to, you can go on your vacation and not have to worry about, am I going to lose my job? Or are they going to find me out? That doesn't sound like a relaxing and enjoyable vacation if the whole time I'm slightly stressed out that someone's going to know that, I'm logging in from Ghana. Right? Because if something goes wrong, you know how it is. If anybody has teenagers, somehow teenagers always do the wildest stuff. And then something goes wrong while they're doing the wild stuff. And now they're in trouble. Right. Now you're in trouble. My daughter got into a car accident on the highway. Terrible, scary car accident. Thankfully, she was okay. It could have been really bad, but she wasn't even supposed to be on the road. She was out here driving at 2:00 in the morning, doing something she wasn't supposed to be doing. So a lot of times when you're doing things you're not supposed to be doing, if something goes wrong, how would it feel to have that conversation? Right? Like they didn't even know you were gone. So if you are working for a company whose travel policy and remote work policy doesn't match up to the lifestyle that you want, it's time to make a different decision. It's time to work somewhere else. And there are companies that will allow you to work remotely and travel. I'd say the only places where that's probably pretty strict is government. If you work for the government, they're going to want you to be in the US. Like that's pretty set. pretty set.
I feel the same about most financial services companies, but I haven't looked into that recently.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of financial services companies. Yes. Banks specifically. Yes. But you can work in finance. Keep in mind, like, because you work in finance doesn't mean you need to work for financial services companies. There's a lot of fintech companies right now. Don't care where you work. You can pretty much work from anywhere. Stripe, for instance, the fintech industry, financial technology industry is booming. It's growing. Think about how many new apps that have just come out that are banking apps. Cash App, Venmo, YNAB. There's just so many, right? So you're not stuck in, working in a financial services industry. You can take those skills and apply them to other companies that are looking for people who have a financial or a banking background.
Yeah, I worked for a very traditional financial services company, and my boss, my boss thought that working remotely meant that we could only do what we could do on our phone because she didn't know how to use the VPN to log into her computer. So the rest of us were like, no, we can work. Like we can't even work. We won't even let us work from
home. She just didn't know.
Because she doesn't know how. And if she doesn't know how, if she's not doing it, she figured we couldn't be doing it either.
But I mean, that goes back to what I said earlier is understand the why, right? If you can understand the why, then you can educate them on how you can address what they're concerned about. Someone mentioned federal government jobs can be abroad. I will note, abroad doesn't mean remote and can work from anywhere. I do have friends that work abroad for the federal government, but they go into a government office as well. Now, there are limited roles that you can do remotely. All I'm saying is there's not a lot of remote jobs that you can do from anywhere for the U.S. government.
No. Oh, and what I was going to say next was that I moved to a fintech company, and they were like, as long as you're here, like the difference between, to your point before, the difference between a traditional financial services company and fintech were like miles apart. Fintech, they were like, we want to see you, but also if we don't see you, we don't notice. Like they literally did not notice if we were there or not.
Yeah. Technology is shaking up quite a few industries. So fintech, I'd say education tech as well. Somebody mentioned earlier in the comments that they want to get out of the classroom, but be in education. I'm going to give you a resource to check out. I know a lot of people who are in education are moving into instructional design. And I know instructional design sounds technical. It's not. It's not that technical. What you're basically doing is setting up systems or programs. Let me not say programs. You're setting up systems that help people learn. And that can be learning through companies, onboarding. So if anybody has ever gotten a new job, you have to do that initial onboarding video. You have to do these like online trainings. And these are the people that set those up. And the tools that you use to set those up are pretty straightforward and easy to learn. And so I've seen a lot of people in education move into that space. The person I would tell you to go talk to is check out is Jill Davidian. She has a course. Let me see. Her Instagram is, I want to say it's Jill ID Coach. Let me look for it. Jill.
Oh, I typed in Jill Davidian and Jill Davidian
ID Coach
popped up.
Yeah. Jill Davidian ID Coach. She's amazing. She's helped over 300 people land jobs in instructional design. She did a masterclass with me last month before last. And we talked about starting salaries in this space. Starting salary is $85K. This is with not a whole lot of experience. This is you don't need a degree to get into this. And she has a course that you can take over 9 months, I think. And she helps people get jobs at the end of it.
Okay. I dropped a link to the course. Okay. I want to hit some of these questions in the comments first, because some of them are asking things that
I like this question about Thailand. Oof.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So when I was in Thailand, I had a friend who was working in Thailand, took her New York job to Thailand, which meant she worked 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. because she was working her New York hours. And she was getting paid her New York salary in Chiang Mai. So yay. Yeah. But she was also like,
whoa, out.
So, and I was like, yes, girl, do that. But I am not, and I won't. Right. And so let's talk about that. Like, do you have recommendations as far as, it's hard because every case is going to be very different, but do you have general recommendations as far as like best time zones to consider, like time zone considerations?
Yeah. Well, let me talk about Thailand specifically for a second. East Asia, Southeast Asia in general. So when we traveled the world for a year, there were people within my group. We did live in Thailand for 3 months. We stay in Thailand for 3.5 months. And there were people in my group that were working, and all of us were working, US hours, mostly Eastern Standard Time. And I won't lie, it's tough. I went to Vietnam and Thailand for 2 weeks while I was working. And again, I mentioned that I was like 150% allocated. So I had more projects than you're supposed to have. And also one of the women that traveled with me just went back to Thailand, and she just posted on Facebook about how tough it is to work regular US hours in Thailand. It is tough. I'm going to tell you, it's not even funny, like not even sugarcoating it. It's really tough to be in Southeast Asia and to be that spread. Cause I think the time zone difference is typically 12 to 14 hours, just depending on what time of year it is. So if it's 9 a.m. in New York, it's 9 or 10 p.m. in Thailand. So just imagine, I remember one day I had meetings, and let's add some complexity to this. While I was in Thailand, I was working on clients that were my company is East Coast, right? And I had clients that were in Central Time and clients that were in California. So my day was extra long. And I distinctly remember me and my coworker, we went to go stay in this elephant conservatory, basically. And I was on the side of a mountain overnight working. My night started at 8 p.m. So the conservatory is on the side of a mountain, and they have this like internet cafe, but there's no doors to it. So it's like outside, so you can enjoy the mountain. In the daytime, that's lovely. But like, I'm sitting there working, freezing my life away from 9 p.m. I think I started at like 9 p.m. and finished at about 10 a.m. That was my day. It was a lot. So I'll say this, if you work in an environment where you don't have to be in meetings and your job is not very time sensitive, right? So for instance, let's say you're a technical writer, or you're a graphic designer, or you're a coder, so that you can work independently, not a huge deal. Being in a time zone that's, 8 to 10 to 12 hours different than yours, it's okay, because you can plan your workday and you can work during your day and not have to be on during your company's day. For those of us who are like in project management and have to be in meetings all day, listen, it can be pretty tough. So how I dealt with that in Thailand was I was only there for 2 weeks. And so I kind of just didn't get as much sleep as I normally would have here. So I would work from, I think, about 9 at night to about 9 in the morning or something like that, or 10 at night to sometime in the morning, take a quick nap. I would take a little nap, and then I would get up and go explore during the day, come back at 4 in Thailand time, come back around 4, take a little nap so that I can get back to work. So you just kind of have to organize your schedule if that's something that you're going to do. But I will tell you, it's not easy. If you have to be in meetings, it's going to be a challenge. That said, if you are in a position where you have to be in meetings and those aren't, you're not the one that can make the call on when those meetings are and how many meetings you're going to be in, I'd say make sure that you're staying in places that are in time zones that are closer. So within, 2 to 3 hours of your workplace's time zone. So if you're so for instance, I'm in Tulsa, going to Columbia, super easy. Time zones exactly the same, depending on the time of year, because they don't do daylight savings time like we do. So if you're going to Colombia, if you're going to Mexico, if you're going to this side of the world, it's going to be a lot easier. But if you're going to go places like Europe, Africa, and definitely Southeast Asia, you want to take into consideration the fact that you might be tired, friend. You might be a little.
Might not be awesome.
Yeah.
Like when I saw her doing it, I was like, this is a young person's game. Like the idea of doing that and then doing it because she wasn't there. Like she lived there for I think a year before she left, and it was like doing that for a full year.
Yeah,
my brain shut down. Even
I think something like that is really great for freelancers or people that, moving that far away is great for freelancers or people that can own their own schedule, that you don't have to be on someone else's, on an East Coast schedule or Central Time schedule or anything like that. It's so much easier.
Right. But she had to be on her New York schedule. Yikes. Okay. So Kim says, is there such a thing as a 100% remote job with a lot of flexibility besides teaching? I'm guessing she means teaching online.
Yeah. All of them. Yeah. Resounding yes. That's, there's so many. Yes. Just the answer is yes. So, and it's not about the job, it's about the company, right? So almost any job that's done from a computer can be done remotely, 100% remotely, right? Pretty much any job that can be done from a computer can be done 100% remotely. Unless you actually have to go and see clients like face to face, like unless you are a brain surgeon or a train conductor, pretty much any job can be done 100% remotely. When you say a lot of flexibility, I assume that you mean the ability to travel. The easiest companies that allow that kind of flexibility are remote first companies. There's a blog on my website with 15 companies that don't care where you work from. 15 companies that don't care where you work from. So the answer to your question is definitely, absolutely.
All right, I'm Googling. So
you want me to
answer this question?
Huh? Answer this question. Okay, let me see what else I got. I'm sure you mentioned this, but what about medical services like psychiatry? I know there are places throughout America you can work remotely in the US, but what about living abroad and working remotely? So I think that's a tough one, Damaris. I know that there are definitely mental health professionals that work remotely. I don't know a lot about outside of the US. I haven't dug into this very much because this is a space where you have to have a license. I think the tough thing is anytime you have to have a state, a license that's given by the state, it can be a little tough to work remotely. But I know doctors who have worked around the world, worked and traveled around the world. So it's just a matter of trying to find those companies that offer and allow that. Especially because in this case, you're not changing, in the case that you're not changing your residency, you're just traveling. So let's say that you've got a license as a mental health professional in the state of Georgia and you work with telehealth or teledoc, right? My guess, and this is just a guess, I'd suggest that you go look into this. My guess is that as long as you maintain your residency in the state of Georgia so that you can maintain your license in the state of Georgia, they probably don't care where you're actually conducting the sessions from. So look into that. I will say, if you're coming to the Quit Commuting Conference, there is a panel on telehealth I think we have 3 mental health professionals that work remotely. And so they can speak to that a lot better than I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But keep in mind that just because you pick up, also like a couple of things to keep in mind. One, the whole working abroad thing doesn't necessarily mean like you're moving abroad. Like there can be situations where for me, I just will go and work somewhere for a whole month. Right. I don't think that my company would be down with me moving out of the country, right? Because there are tax implications and labor laws and things that they would have to adhere to, and they don't have the resources to do that. But me going to stay in Portugal, I'm going to Portugal for a month in July, Rashida, if you want to come through. Me going to stay in Portugal for a month, right? That's not me moving. I still have a residency. I still have a house here in the US. And for all intents and purposes, I still live in the US. I'm just leaving for a month. So take into consideration that you can flex around, just leaving for a month, 2 months, 3 months. And that kind of thing probably wouldn't affect your ability to do telehealth.
Also, I'm a little salty because I was supposed to go to Portugal and Senegal in May and June. And I looked at them ticket prices and I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be in Mexico. I haven't been to Oaxaca. Let me try that because them ticket prices were
they? I haven't looked. I need to hop on and look.
It was, but I think some of it is like I'm in Mexico. So to get there, I was
yeah.
Flying out. It was a lot of jumping around, but like even the coach prices had me like,
Oof.
I don't even get to lie flat and I gotta pay that much. Yeah. All right. So Damaris, yes, I love to hear this. If it wasn't for me, she wouldn't be thinking of leaving this country. Thank you. Thank you.
Aww.
Thanks for watching. You guys, I appreciate you. And I appreciate you saying these nice things.
Somebody asked about working on a ship. Nah, friend. Nah.
Some people love it. Some people.
No. She said because the Wi-Fi is horrible.
Oh, I thought you meant actually working, like being an employee of a ship.
No. She's remote working on a ship. So I'll tell you, Kim, to look into something like Nomad Cruise. There's a program called Nomad Cruise. They actually do work from a ship. I don't know how they manage it and how their Wi-Fi is, but cruise ship Wi-Fi is not, it's just not consistent, right? And so back to Rashida's question earlier about making sure that you can work, right? How do you prioritize work? How do you make sure that you can work and minimize situations where you're dropping the ball? One of the things that I'm very clear about is making sure I have good Wi-Fi, right? I don't even trust hotel Wi-Fi because it is not consistent, right? So when I go places, I'm looking for co-working spaces. And so going into situations saying, I want to work for a month from a cruise ship, you're already kind of setting yourself up for challenges because the Wi-Fi is just not going to be consistent.
Yeah.
Please take off work for that.
I was actually going to ask, you about what you do to make sure that you have what you need. And I know that you work from co-working spaces a lot, or I think you work from co-working spaces a lot. So are you doing research on them ahead of time before you get to a country? Or are you figuring things out when you get there? How are you figuring out where to go to get the best Wi-Fi, to get the best working environment, et cetera, when you're in a new place?
Yeah. So great question. I think that, so there are websites that you can search the overall country and see like how good their Wi-Fi is. So for instance, Wi-Fi in Ghana 2-3 years ago was a bit challenging. It's getting better. Wi-Fi in South Africa was expensive when we were staying there. But that's changing too. I think when I was in South Africa, they were starting to lay fiber optic cables to make internet more accessible and affordable in South Africa. So there are websites. I can't remember the name of it right now. I have to circle back and maybe drop it in the comments, or maybe you can put it in the description after this is posted, where you can see what countries have great Wi-Fi infrastructure. So that's one thing. A lot of times I'll look at places where it's already digital nomad heavy, like digital nomad capitals like Chiang Mai and Medellin, like people go there to work. Prague, Croatia, like it's just such a heavy digital nomad community that I know the Wi-Fi is going to be good. The second thing I say is when you're looking at, it's now complete. That's so excellent. Dan, thank you for that update. Somebody just said the fiber optic project in Cape Town is not complete. I'm actually headed to Cape Town in 3 weeks. So I'm very excited to hear that. And I will be working the first 3 days that I'm there. The second thing that I'd say is when you're booking Airbnbs, so Airbnb understands now that a lot more digital nomads have been using their platform. A lot more of them started during the pandemic, of course, but we've always used their platform to find places that we can live. Nomad List, that's the name of it. Thank you. That is the name of it, Nomad List. That's the one that gives you just information about different locations, and it tells you if the Wi-Fi is good in this place, and it will give you suggestions of where to work from too. Airbnb is doing a better job of making it possible for people to understand what they're getting themselves into. So Airbnb hosts now have an attribute in Airbnb's platform where it will show you what their Wi-Fi speed is. So that's something you can search for now on Airbnb. So I always look for an Airbnb that has a dedicated workspace, because if it has a dedicated workspace, then they know you're going to work. So they better have good Wi-Fi, right? So that's one of the things that I do is make sure there's good Wi-Fi via Airbnb. And then I look to see if they have co-working spaces. Most co-working spaces are going to have great Wi-Fi. One thing I have not done, which I am going to start doing soon, is travel with a personal hotspot as well. I've never done that. I did give everyone in our group a hotspot. I just never traveled with one. But you can get a hotspot, and then when you land, you can get a SIM card so that you have internet access as well. So those are some of the things I do to make sure I've got good Wi-Fi. Another thing that I do to say I make sure I know what I have what I need is get really clear about what's going to be happening while I'm there, right? So if I'm going to be in Guatemala for a week, what will be happening while I'm in Guatemala? I'm going to look at my schedule, right? And I'm going to say, well, I have important meetings on these days. So on these days, I'm going to make sure I'm in a good enough space to manage these meetings. I'm not going to go to a coffee shop and work that day because it's going to be too noisy, right? I'm going to go to a co-working space that has quiet space, or I'm going to work from my apartment.
Okay. Thank you, Patricia, for the super sticker. Thank you. I think it's important that you know where, not only where you're working, where to get the good Wi-Fi, but also like what your backup plans are. So for me, a backup plan wherever I go, y'all gonna call me bougie, but it's fine. An American hotel. If you can find a Hilton, a Marriott or something, they have clean bathrooms.
Yep.
They have food you'll eat, right? Yep. And they'll have good Wi-Fi.
Decent Wi-Fi.
If you know, like, I'm sorry?
Decent Wi-Fi.
If you're having trouble finding Wi-Fi, you go to, like, for me, it's like if I can go to a restaurant in the hotel and work from there, I'll most likely get better Wi-Fi. So for me, that's
places that have a Starbucks is always a good move too. Yes. The other thing I'd say is a slept-on place is the library. So if you can go to a local library, and libraries are usually free. One thing I'd say is WeWork is a co-working space that is located all over the world. So you can probably find a WeWork in almost any country that you're in. Let me not say almost any country, a lot of countries. And WeWork always has credible Wi-Fi, and their drop-in rate, if you want to just show up for the day, is like $30.
Okay. So yeah, like Libryia said, it's important to think about what you need to do. Like I almost never need quiet space. And if I need quiet space, I'm in my apartment, right?
Yeah.
What I like when if I'm working out and about is like, I want food, right? I want food. I want a place where I feel like I don't have to worry about me or my things, right?
Yeah.
Like that's why for me, sometimes cafes are more challenging than like a hotel restaurant. Nothing bad will happen there, but it's
interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way. I love working at cafes. I absolutely adore working at cafes.
I like cafes, but I've also, someone tried to take my things in a cafe once. And another time, it's funny, in a group here, I saw someone the other day, little scam I'm gonna tell y'all about, someone in Mexico City was working, and then someone came into the cafe and was doing something and put their bag down on the person's table. And when they picked up their bag and walked away, the original person's phone was gone. So they put it on top of their phone and then
Wow.
slips away. And it's like, that's a lot of stuff I got to work. Like, I don't want to, right?
Interesting.
A lot of the cafes are more congested, right? Have
Yeah.
more people going in and out.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
Good
you got to
point.
watch all the stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I love places with cafe cultures. And this is something else to think about when you're doing remote work. In Mexico City specifically, I can be at a cafe and order one thing of food and one drink and be there for like 8 hours and nobody's tripping.
Nobody
Like,
cares.
it's a cafe culture and nobody, like, there's no one, everyone does this, right? Everyone comes and they'll be there for like 6 hours with one coffee. And like the people working at the cafe don't care. If you like cafes, you're probably going to want to go to a city that also has a cafe culture like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't have them like, you've been here an hour, it's time to order something else or get out. Because that,
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to our comment. Like, so Starbucks never cares. Like, you can buy something or not buy something. You could sit down in Starbucks and just get on your computer, and they're not chasing you. They don't care. Starbucks still getting that money. They good. Someone asked about taxes. If you maintain a residence in the U.S. but are abroad 365, does that require paying taxes in that country? Yes. In order to, I think for U.S. taxes, you can't be out of the country for more than, I think you have to spend 30 days in the country. I think it's a minimum of 30 days in the.
So there's a 30-day rule, and there's another rule about whether you actually have residency abroad. It's challenging.
Yeah.
We want to get the taxes here. The lawyer in me is like, nope, no.
Yeah, but it's not 365 is what I'm trying to tell you. It's not 365. I am not a tax professional. And this is what I always tell people when they ask me about taxes. Please look that up.
Yes.
Look that up. In some countries, I think somebody mentioned that if you make less than 100K, no taxes, yada, yada, yada. There's a whole lot of different rules depending on where you are, how long you've been in the US, how long you're out of the US, if you have residency in the US. Look that up, but it is not 365 days.
Charmaine, we answered your question at the beginning of this video. So when you get through, go back to the beginning and we talked about working as a virtual assistant. All right, let's see. Tamika says, also make sure your company's IT department isn't watching your location. We talked about that earlier as well. Make sure, Libryia had really good suggestions of how to have that conversation. But okay, so we talked about what to do if your company is hesitant to let you work abroad. But if there's no real policy, which at this point, your company should have a policy, but if there is no real policy, or even if there is one, what are your suggestions for starting that conversation with your employer?
If there is, in the absence of a policy on whether or not you can work abroad, for me, I'm going to say what I would do. I would ask. I mean, so thing one, let me back up a little bit. I think that everyone should have a champion at work. If you don't have a champion, you need to get one. And what is a champion? If you ever watched Game of Thrones or any movies or anything like that set in that time frame, the champion is someone that fights on your behalf, right? That's someone so at work, a champion is the one that's fighting for you to get you what you want, be that a promotion on a good project, a transfer, a raise, to work remotely, because the people that are making those decisions for you you're not in the room. You're not in the room when they're having those conversations. And so that champion can be in that room and fight for you and have that conversation. So what I would do is I tend to have really great relationships with my boss, right? So I would probably ask my boss, what's the feeling about me working from XYZ location for the next 2 to 3 weeks? And coming into that conversation, just like I said before, with answers to what their questions will be. Anticipate what their questions will be, right? What about your work schedule? What about security? So these are the things that I've already prepared to have that conversation. And then there's the people that are like, there's no policy, so I'm just going to do it and ask for forgiveness later, right? I'm going to say again, I'm not your mom. I'm not going to tell you what to do. For me, I would rather have the conversation up front and find out if it's a yes or no, so I know how I can move, right? If it's a no, then I know that this is a company I probably can't be with long term. So I need to make some decisions and some moves. Because if it's a no, if I ask the question and it's a no, then then what I've learned is, had I done this and they found out, I could have risked losing my job. Right.
Right.
But I know that some people have this mentality of, I'm just going to go. They don't need to know where I am. They don't need to know my business. And since they don't have a policy, that's really on them. Right. And maybe in that case, if they find out that you are out of the country, then maybe you won't lose your job. Maybe it's now, let's have that conversation. Now let's have a policy. So I'm going to leave that up to you. It's not something that I would do, though.
Okay. I saw this comment. Do you do one-on-one help anymore? I know you used to. Do you still do that? No?
I do it maybe once or twice a year.
Okay.
But if you want more assistance, more, guidance, I suggest I do have a Quick Commuting Academy, which is basically a community where we do master classes once a week. Let's see if I can find you a link for this. We do master classes once a week that hits a whole bunch of different topics on how you can work remotely. And once a week, I do a live coaching in there. And then we post about 100 remote jobs, every week as well. And we try to introduce you guys to recruiters. So a lot of the things that we're doing in the Quick Commuting Conference, we do it on a, smaller scale, but more regularly in the Quick Commuting Academy. I am thinking about opening my books for one-to-ones soon. It's really tough though, because I'm going to be traveling pretty much all of May. So it's tough for me to do one-to-ones given my schedule.
Libryia, I'm dropping the link now.
Okay, thank you.
My Google's on.
Yeah, you don't play.
Listen, got to move. We got.
I don't think that's it. What is
that's
that?
Not it?
Where'd you get
that's
that?
The link from.
Let's see.
Podia.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think I have.
Did you move it?
Yeah, that's not it. Let me get it for you.
All right.
Let me grab it for you. But yeah, it's really tough to do one-to-one, especially given the role I just took on at work. But the Quick Commuting Academy, I do a weekly live session to answer questions, and people can communicate with me in the academy, as well as there was one more thing I was going to say. Oh, and I do live sessions once a month on YouTube as well. So if you want to subscribe, you can do that too.
Oh yes, let's drop that in there. If you drop the link in the private chat, I'll just move it over.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get it for you. There you go. And the Academy, you can join for free for 14 days, just so you know. That way you can come in, see what it's like, look around, see what's going on in there, and then decide if you want to stay.
Okay. Boom, 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 boom.
Someone mentioned that I may be taking a group abroad for a period of time. Yes, I am considering doing workations. So I'm probably going to bring back the 1 month. So during my year abroad, I actually opened it up for people to come and join us for 1 month at a time. So we had people join us in Cape Town for a month. We had people join us in Colombia for a month. And then after that, I sent a group to Thailand for a month, and I sent a group to Nairobi for a month, and set people up to work remotely for a whole month. So I'm thinking about doing that again. It's going to be called Workations. So just stay tuned for when that happens. I don't have a set date for when that's going to be launching, but I would like to do it. I would like to do it this year, but we'll see. Stay tuned, friend. Thanks for asking that.
Okay. And I'm going to drop the link to your YouTube channel. So you keep going with the next question. You're the host now.
Let's see. I'm the captain now.
I'm your assistant.
Let's see. What other questions? There's a lot of comments. You guys are so helpful. I love this. Mm-hmm. They're answering each other's questions. When is the Quick Commuting Conference? It's April 21st through the 23rd, which is less than 2 weeks away. I'm a fresh newbie. I'm trying to sign up for the Quick Commuting Conference. But do you have to register and hop in also? That's the only way to buy tickets. So when you buy the tickets, you're already registering and hop in. If that makes sense. So like when you purchase the ticket, it's going to ask you to set up your user.
All right. My organization had a remote work policy, 6 months maximum for fiscal reasons, but they denied my request, so I left. Yes. You advocating for yourself.
Not mad at that. And you know what I love about this comment is you have options, you have choices. And so many people feel so stuck Like they're stuck in their job, they're stuck at the company they work for. You are not stuck. You are never stuck. You apply for that job. Like they didn't come get you out your house and bring you to this company. You applied for that job, and so you can apply for another one. You can do whatever you want at any time, right? You can go ahead and start making moves. I'm glad that you took charge of what you wanted for your lifestyle. I'd love to hear why they denied her request. Did they give you a reason? I'd love to
Let
know that.
us let us know, Simi. There was someone else above that said her job asked for a photo of her workspace, and I'm like, that's wild and intrusive. But maybe they may. I don't. Who knows? Who knows what kind of job? I don't know. But I would be like, time to look for a new job. Thank you.
They asked for a photo of your workspace?
Yeah, I can't remember. It was way above. I can't remember who it was, but somebody definitely said that in the comments. And I'm not sure if that's like a regular check-in, they want to know where you are thing, or like a.
That's so interesting.
A mess.
The telehealth panel is at the Quit Commuting Conference. So it's one of the panels at the Quit Commuting Conference. It's on day 3, I think at 11 o'clock Eastern time. So there's multiple panels that are just groups of people who work in specific areas. So you'll get to meet people who are literally doing this work. They're not speakers. They're literally just, folks just like you guys that are working that are working remotely in different areas. So there's one on finance and accounting. There's one on project management and product management. There's one on healthcare. There's one on customer service. There's quite a few.
I'm still scrolling through the comments.
So I can see them asking for your workspace as a one-time thing. That I could see that. I could see that for, like somebody said, for safety and workers' comp, for a checklist to satisfy workers' comp. I guess I could see that. But like, if you want me to check in regularly for my workspace, that feels weird.
Yeah, it's hard too, because like I do most of my, like I have a desk as a workspace, but I'm also working a lot from the couch. So like,
yeah, like
what you need from a workers' comp perspective, like what I send you probably isn't where I'm spending most of my time, because like that's also.
But I feel like a lot of companies do things that it doesn't really solve the problem that they're trying to solve.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of times they're doing stuff like, for instance, you want to monitor and manage that your coworkers, that your employees are working remotely. So you want to schedule all these meetings. That doesn't solve the problem that you want to solve. You scheduling all these meetings is actually impeding my ability to get work done.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make sure I'm getting work done. I can't, because I'm looking at you all day. So a lot of times these companies do stuff that just doesn't solve the problem that they really need to solve. If you need to solve the problem of like workplace safety, then it should be more of a matter of giving me the guidelines.
Right. Or like giving me an allowance to get ergonomic equipment, right? Like if you really care, but you don't.
You don't actually care.
Maybe they do. Maybe it's not about monitoring people, but it feels like it.
Yeah, I don't understand what the use of that is. I'd love to know. I really wish if you guys know why they asked you for that, that would be lovely. I'd love to know that.
I feel like so many even there are ways that humans that were intrusive when we're in the office are still continuing to be intrusive now. Like
somebody just said that they show up to work they want to show up to inspect your remote work location. You can't come in my house.
Show up to inspect my location? Like, are you paying? You're not paying for this space.
No. The answer is no. I don't. That sounds like a place I don't need to work. Listen, I'm gonna say this, like to that point, and to the point that you're making right now about people being very intrusive in a remote work environment. Like, listen, I don't want to work for a company that doesn't trust me. I'm an adult. I can be trusted to get work done. And if you cannot trust your employees to get work done, your problem is not your employees. Your problem is your culture. Your problem is your management styles. Your problem is not being really clear on what expectations are. Like I don't want to work anywhere where y'all can't trust me. I just don't. I'm a whole ass grown up.
Also, hello, it's a pandemic. A lot of people are working through non-ideal situations. They got their kids at home. They're trying to figure things out. Like, And the thing I really hate about this is that so many jobs and so many employee situations, they don't tell you what the expectation is. So when you're coming in to inspect, what are you inspecting? Like, what criteria do I need to have met in order for me to pass this inspection? Or is it solely going to be based on however the inspector feels about my work environment? Right. And if their culture is different from mine, could they possibly feel different about my work environment than I do? Right. Like, if the work is getting done, what are we doing here?
Why do you care? Why do you care whether I'm working from this seat or my couch or a beachside villa? Like, if the work's getting done, that's where the focus needs to be. Is the work getting done? Because honestly, I feel like in a remote work environment, you really get to see who your great employees are, if anything, right? Because it's not masked under FaceTime, under me being in your face and in your office and at my desk all day. It shows up in the actual deliverables. It shows up in the actual productivity. I see a lot of people saying that that companies ask to see their workplace. So someone mentioned it about safety, but I totally understand if, like somebody said, inspections for security, and another was for ergonomics, and they would pay to outfit your space. That makes sense. Like, I can understand, like, you want to see it from a one-time perspective, and then you want to, outfit it with ergonomic desk stuff. Totally get that. Again, though, it doesn't necessarily solve the problem, because my home office is really nice, but I may never work in here. Right. So me sending you this picture just checks a box. Like, it doesn't solve the problem you're trying to solve. I hope that's a one-time thing, though. I really do.
It's, like I said, it's also, though, like, have you told me what I need to have in my workspace and what I should not have in my workspace? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you haven't told me your expectations of my workspace, what is an actual human coming into my workspace and into my home during a pandemic? Like, what are we doing here? Right? Like, let's start with you giving me some guidelines. And if for some reason you feel like the company is said, nobody's meeting these guidelines, then you go out and check. Otherwise,
why are we starting with a picture? Like, send me, like you said, send me this checklist and see if I have these things. If I don't, then you can say, well, let's get you these things, or let's figure out how to fix these issues. Right? Do you have, like, I'm looking under my desk and there's all these cords under there. That's probably a violation of something. So if they say, do you have excessive electrical cords, then I can say yes. And they can say, well, here's how you fix that.
Okay.
Like you're saying. Yeah. I see some questions about the Quick Commuting Conference. Yes, it's recorded. People who have a full access or premier access ticket will get automatic free access to the replays. If you have a general admission ticket, you will have to purchase the replays afterwards. I saw a couple of questions about the conference. Are there no more premier access tickets? You can. They're $150 now. They're not on sale anymore. So the one that you're saying you don't see, it's probably because it's the sale is over. I can check on that for you, though, to make sure it's showing up correctly. You may just kind of have to scroll through to get to the premier access tickets.
I see the premier access tickets when I go to the website. Let's see.
Yeah, they may be seeing the original one, the one that's not on sale anymore, and then just stopping there, right? So you might just,
so there's general admission for $10 is still available. Yes?
Yeah, $10 is available. Full access for $60 is available. And premier access for $150 is available. I'm looking at it. Where is it? Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's available.
Yeah. Okay. So y'all got some options. And if you went to the conference last fall, 8 months ago, and you have a job now, a remote job now, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, let us know. I know there was one company, their CEO spoke, and since then 3 people have gotten hired at that company.
Oh wow.
Which is pretty great. That's pretty exciting.
Okay, let me see.
So it should be less confusing now. I just took off the ones that are not for sale anymore. Real fast.
Okay. Look at you. She's a tech whiz. All right. All right, let's see. What's going on in the comments? Lisa purchased full access. She couldn't get premier access.
Yeah.
Oh. I had to visit a telecommuter. He had a shotgun and ammunition next to his workspace. He later shot his brother in an argument. Yeah, but that ain't had nothing to do with the job, right?
Hey.
That had nothing to do whether
Also,
whether the gun was next to his workplace or not. Unless y'all pissed him off at work, that feels like that's with or without any workspace changes that easily could have happened.
yeah, he had some other stuff going on
There was some other stuff
with him.
Yes. I need my job to ask me if I need an ergonomic desk. Please.
Right? I actually want one of those. I'm about to order one of those desks that you can
Yes.
adjust.
I saw one the other day and I was like, ooh, I love it. And it was like $500. And I was like, do I love it $500 worth?
So I don't have one. The one I want is like $600, but I'm gonna hit my boss up like, so how much y'all putting in on this?
Listen, and when I say my boss, I mean me. So like, do I want it that much?
Yeah.
Like, I think I might get a different chair first. I like my chair, but I don't know, but I don't sit in it all day.
Somebody did mention that their company expanded remote work opportunities after spending 20 months 100% remote. But there's a long-term lease on the office space, so they have to return to the office for part-time. So that's been a lot of concern for a lot of companies, right? It's, yes, our teams are productive remotely and they're happier, but also we got all these leases. Like, what are we supposed to do with these buildings? And so a lot of these companies that are forcing people to go back to the office are doing so because they don't want to have this asset going to waste, which in a lot of cases it still is, because, you know, they're trying to do this hybrid thing. And like, there's all these articles on LinkedIn about people showing up to work to do Zoom calls. Like, I'm going to go to the office to be on Zoom. Like, what is this about? Right. So, I mean, I don't know what the answer is. Of course, that is a challenge. That is a problem that companies need to solve. I don't know that the answer is, so send people to the office. Right.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know what the answer is, but
I went my last job, my coworkers, I was in California. My coworkers were in our office, in our main office. My coworkers were in Cleveland. And another coworker was in Pittsburgh. And I was required to go to the office because I was the only person on the team who moved there.
Yeah.
So I was just like to go in the office, but it was also like all of our clients are all over. Like, I go in the office and I can literally not speak to anybody live all day, except maybe 1 or 2 meetings. But the rest of them, because we have people all over, I'm on Zoom all day.
Yeah, like, for why? I know a couple of people where their whole team is dispersed and distributed, but they have to be in the office just because they're located close to an office. Like,
yeah,
make this make sense. I'm not coming to your office, friends. And I don't want to get it confused. I don't mind the office. You know, I used to live in Atlanta, which is where my company is located. And I would go to the office like once every couple of weeks. My thing is, I want the choice. I want to own the choice of where I believe I work best today. Mm-hmm. Right? Because Monday it may be from my house. On Mondays, I like to work in my house because I've got meetings all day, back to back, and I want to just be able to run to the kitchen and grab a snack or whatever. Wednesdays, I like to go to the co-working space because I don't have it's not as meeting heavy. And some days when I'm in Atlanta, I love to go to the office because I love hanging out with my coworkers. I just know I'm not going to be productive on those days because I came here to hang out. So for me, it's less about the office specifically and more about the option. I don't want you forcing me to be somewhere.
Right. Right.
You know, I can do my work from anywhere.
And if you can do your work from anywhere, it really is great to look for those remote work first companies, right? People who are like, oh no, we understand what this is, because I feel like right now with the Great Resignation, it's not a great time to be like, you have to come back to the office. All of you who don't want to be back in the office, you have to come back in the office because we got to pay rent, because we're still paying, or because we got a tax break or whatever, right? Like,
it's not like a you problem.
You still paying
your lease is not my problem, friend.
You're still paying that rent no matter what. That's right. Like, these people are quitting and getting other jobs. So unless this is what you want, like you want your workers to quit, it's time for employers to start thinking about their employees as more than just widgets, right? Like
Somebody said
what
sunk costs.
it means to be employees.
Somebody
So
said sunk costs. Like, that's how
it
I feel
is.
about it. Because listen, I hear you. Like this, the building is paid for whether we go there or not. Right? Like the lease is the lease. You pay for this building, you have to pay for this building. It is what it is. However, if you're going to force your employees to go back to the office, as Rashida just said, you are putting yourself at risk of losing your employees. Right? So one of these things you've already paid for, but forcing people to go to the office is creating additional cost because it costs money to replace employees. And it costs money from a standpoint of literally having to hire people to recruit, right? And it costs money from a standpoint of lost productivity as well. So,
and it's usually a particular group of people who do not want to go back to the office because they don't want to deal with your bullshit, right? It's usually like the people who are really, there are a couple different like types of people I see really pushing the go back to the office hard. And it's like middle management who had a little bit of power and are like, hey, I need to get back in your face and watch you all the time because that's what they like to do. People who don't want to be home with their families, they're like, these kids still home. I got to go back to work. And people who the workplace wasn't toxic for, right? The people who are like, I love it here, right? They give me snacks. You could be wrong. But for those of us that worked in environments that were particularly toxic for us, it's like, why? Work's still getting done, y'all. Like, I don't need to be up in this.
I don't want to be around you. I don't. And I think specifically, I think also a lot of times for women, especially like in my mind, I think remote work puts us in a position where we get to be removed from some of the things that we experience in the office, right? You know, having guys looking at us inappropriately, right? Or this pressure to dress a certain way, right? Or this pressure to look a certain way at work. Because there's this balance we always have to have of being attractive enough that people looking attractive enough that people enjoy working with us, but not like going past the point of like people are, why is she dressing like that in the workplace? That removes that kind of pressure from us. And it removes this just it removes us from environments that are truly physically uncomfortable for us as well. So I love remote work for women specifically for some of those reasons as well, right? And I've also worked in consulting firms. So similar to law firms, right? It's all about the billable hour and how often you're there and FaceTime. And I worked with a whole bunch of guys. And I would come to the office at 8 a.m. and I would leave at 5 because I needed to go pick up my daughter. Actually, I would leave at 6 because I needed to pick up my daughter. Meanwhile, they're rolling in at 9:30, 10 o'clock, and they're staying till 8 at night. So the perception is they're working harder than me. Meanwhile, throughout the day, they're like playing office basketball. They're racing cars around them, you know, electric cars, or they're leaving and taking an hour and a half lunch. And Libryia is sitting down getting work done because I've got to go pick up my kid. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so being in a remote work environment, I'm removed from that kind of mentality where the person that stays the longest is doing the most work.
Right. Now, that's a very good point. Also, a workplace I used to work. No, name any names today, but there was a vice president whose office overlooked the parking lot, and he would comment. He would have like his managers underneath him in the office, and he'd be commenting on the bodies of all the women walking into work. And so, like, you're being sexualized by a vice president of this very large company.
Wow.
On the way into work. And the CEO of the company, the men would tell me, like, if we can't get on his calendar, we just find him in the bathroom. And we talk, like, if we have an issue, we talk it out there. And I'm like, you don't hear how crazy it is to tell me that, like, the way to talk to him is in the men's room. Like, so I'm like, these are reasons I don't need to go back to work. I'm never going to have that meeting in the men's room with the CEO. I don't need to be sexualized.
What? That sounds like a lawsuit. That sounds like a huge lawsuit. I just don't understand. But to your point about toxic environment, like I had a friend who used to cry in her car. Like when she parked to go to work, she would sit across the street in the parking lot and cry before she had to go into the office. Like, that's just crazy. We spend so much of our time working and at work. that can't be life. It just cannot be life. It cannot be life to have to go into a place where someone's constantly interrupting you throughout your workday, right? Hey, you got a quick minute? Nah, I don't actually. You see me typing things on my computer? Or you got the coworkers that, gather around close to your desk so they can have whole conversations while you're trying to get your work done. What are y'all doing over here? And then you got people eating your lunch. Like, why are we dealing with this? Like, I can do this at home. I can do this work at home and not have to deal with any of this toxic environment and not have to deal with, the cliques at work. And it alleviates a lot of mental health issues. I agree. Like, being in environments and around people that and it's not just, I don't enjoy being around these people. It's
you're toxic.
It's toxic and it's stressful to be around these people.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? That's a totally different thing. And then let's add on, somebody mentioned the getting ready in the traffic. My commute used to be an hour and 15 minutes each way. Rashida, that is a part-time job.
2 hours.
That's a part-time job. My part-time job was getting to work and I wasn't getting paid for it. So it was part-time volunteer work.
2 hours each way. And my boss, who was working from home in Cleveland, wanted me to be in the office the exact hours the CEO was. He was there 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So you want me to leave my house at 5 a.m. and get home at 9 a.m. every day because I'm the only person who works in the region?
That's crazy. That's bananas. And
it's bananas.
And here's what's even crazier. Like, again, part-time job. It's a part-time job. Like, I could be making money in that 10 hours. Let's add on the time it takes to actually get dressed to go. Let's add on another hour. So we're talking about 3 hours a day, just trying to get to work. That's 15 hours of productivity I could give you. That's also 15 hours a week I'm not spending with my family or not spending on myself or not spending on, the other dreams and goals and passions that I have. That's 15 hours. That's a lot of time.
But why? It's crazy. And to your point earlier about, you said my workplace could be sued. Yes, we had someone who did like blatant like sexual harassment, like it was bad and it was public. And they didn't get fired because if they fired them for sexual harassment, they'd have to fire a whole lot more people. Like that was the known thing. Like, we can't fire him because we have to fire like a lot of our managers. And it was like, oh, okay, well, this is fun. But this is also why, like, I don't enjoy going to work. I don't want to do the things that might advance my career, like spending more time with you people, out going for cocktail. I don't want to, no. Like, without understanding why these environments are toxic, the people who are making them toxic are pushing for us to go back to them, right? They're like,
they're the ones that want you to be back in the office.
Right? Like, I haven't sexually harassed anybody in 18 months. Like, let's get to it. The girl at the grocery store ain't taking my shit. Like, what are we?
The girl at the grocery store is not feeling me. Like, I just need, and she's not required.
I can't say anything I want to her.
She's not financially required to deal with my shit.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Somebody else talked about people like looking over your shoulder at your desk. I've never had anybody just be nosy at my desk, and I'm sorry that you're experiencing that. For me, it was more, I don't like having to look busy at the office. Like, faking looking busy is just not. So I happen to be very efficient. I get work done really quickly. And so as an adult, as a grown-up and a professional, I feel like I should be in environments where if I believe I've done everything of value that needs to be done for the day, I can shift gears in any way I choose. Right. So if I feel like I've done everything I need to do for my job today, maybe that took me 2 hours. Who knows? Some days it takes 8, some days it takes 2. But if I've given my company everything that they need today, I would like to, as an adult, make the conscious decision that I'm going to switch gears and say, I'm going to work on my business for the rest of the day. I'm going to work on, taking a course for a couple of hours. I'm going to update my website, right? I want to be able to decide as an adult, as a valued adult, where my focus goes. And being in the office and having to look busy, like somebody walked by, so I got to get rid of, my little website design and put up something else, is really annoying. And I'm not here for the conversation of I'm doing other people's work on the company's dime. Here's the truth. The company is paying me for the years of experience and the years of education that I have. right? They are also paying me for these deliverables. I did them. And if it only took me 2 hours, it only took me 2 hours. And let's also point out that there are some days where I work 10 hours. There's some days where I work 12 hours. So it balances out, in my opinion. At the end of the day, I'm grown. I want to be trusted to decide where my attention can be. And having to look busy is just not something I want to do.
No. All right. And then there's this.
Whew.
Child.
Oh.
Like,
let's do the math. How many gallons does an average car hold? 50? How many gallons does an average car hold?
No.
How many gallons does an average car hold? Let me ask Google because I want to do the math on this.
I think we're looking more like 12, 15.
12 gallons.
Yeah.
And 12 gallons ain't gonna get you. She said, how far is her drive? 127 miles?
127 miles. Yeah.
It's that's probably about a half a gallon of gas, right? I mean, half a tank of gas.
And both way? No, I can't.
So an average car holds 15 gallons. Look, this is what my mama used to make us do. She used to make us do math in the car. Like, we're driving 50 miles per hour and it's 120 miles away. How long is it gonna take us to get there? Probably 15 to 20. So I'm just like, how much are you spending on gas? Let's just ask her directly. How much are you spending on gas every week? That's $627.
That's crazy.
Like, girl, you could be investing. You could be on Robinhood buying stocks.
You could be doing anything else but this.
Girl, see, that's what I was trying to get at right there. That's what I was trying to get at. So there have been a few articles about this topic. The fact that remote work has uncovered a lot of things. One, there's a lot of inefficiencies built into the system of showing up to work, right? A lot of inefficiencies built into the system of how we work in the US, especially. And two, it's uncovered the ineffectiveness of the management layer as well.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just uncovered so much. I'd say on any given day, just depending on what I'm doing for work, it might require, 2 to 4 hours of like hands-on keyboard work. And some of it's just meetings and guiding people and checking in with clients. But yeah, and this, I don't know if this sounds bad, Rashida. Let me know. You guys let me know if this sounds bad. Like, I don't feel any kind of way because my company is not paying me for an 8-hour day specifically. My company is paying me for my skills, my education, my experience. And also, again, it fluctuates. Some days it requires, like today, I'm going to have to do some work because we've got a big deliverable coming up and my team needs extra support from me. So I'm trying to review documentation. So I'm going to be working on a Sunday, but that might mean Tuesday, as a pretty light day, right? So in my mind, it evens out. $40 a day, $120 a week. $120 a week.
Someone else said they pay $1,000 a month in parking, and I'm like, woo. Okay. Little pause for a little ad. If you are here and you haven't liked this video, go ahead, press the thumbs up button. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do it now. I dropped a link to Libryia's channel. I'll do that as well. I talk about career breaks. I talk about ways to work less. Remote work isn't necessarily a way to work less. But if you can find a part-time remote job and you only need a part-time salary, like this, that for me is like, that's that sweet spot. Like I live in Mexico, right? So I don't need as much money as I did when I lived in Oakland. If you can go somewhere where you need less money and work less, so you're not working a full-time job.
Yeah. And to that point, like full-time jobs that don't require as much of your face time, right? As much of your time. So for instance, to your point, Rashida, I work at probably one of the highest levels a project manager could be at, right? Or I just moved out of that. But if I were going to move out of the country, I would probably just go towards getting a less senior level project management role because it's going to require a lot less of my time as well.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
So subscribe to the channel. We talk about this all the time. Talk about career breaks, talk about moving abroad, living your best life under your terms. Because that's, I think, one of the things that when we're having these remote work conversations, employees are starting to recognize more of it. What they want matters. Before it felt like you have to fit into this box that your employer gives you. And I feel like now more people are open to the conversation of, but what is it that I really want? How can I make this work for me? And so, yeah, it's your time, right? It's your time to figure out what it is you want and how can you get those things you want. So that's what we do here. Lib talks about remote work. So I love having her here in this conversation.
You know how a lot of retail companies and service companies, there was a huge shift where customers were now driving how companies need to behave. So like Uber became a thing because customers demanded, what Uber was offering. And so customers have completely shifted the market in a lot of ways where, retail companies, all of the companies that want our dollars are focused more on how we buy and how we make buying decisions more now than they've ever been, right? They try to make it as easy as possible for us. That shift is happening in the labor market now, where it's employees that are driving how we hire, how we recruit, and how we manage our employees in our workforce. So we're seeing a huge shift in the labor market right now where we have more power. It's an employees market right now, y'all. So you've got choices for sure. For sure. Where to go gain skills necessary to move remote. You already have the skills necessary to work remotely, right? Whatever you're doing, especially if you work from a computer, you can already work remotely, right? Just so you know, you already have the skills. Just by nature of you being here right now and commenting on this video lets me know that you've got some skills to do something remotely. For example, some people manage social media remotely. Some people as a freelancer, or they work for companies and they manage people's social media. I know people that literally get paid to just go on social media and comment on posts. So you already have the skills necessary to work remotely, friend.
All right. Friends, what are the pressing questions that we haven't addressed yet? Let's see. Kat from Rebloom Room says when she moves abroad, she'll probably be downscaling her job for less responsibility. Yes.
I think that's a great idea. I hadn't considered that until you just mentioned it.
Yeah. If you don't need full-time pay.
Yeah.
Why do full-time work?
For why? For why?
Especially because so much of a full-time work, to your point before, is just moving things around and doing things and looking busy so that your oppressive manager doesn't get mad.
Right. I don't like busy work. I'm not a fan of busy work. I'm not here for it. Yeah. I don't want to spend my life doing busy work. Somebody get paid to comment on people's posts. Yeah, that's like a freelancer gig. You can just, set up a account on like Fiverr or Upwork or something like that and get paid to manage people's social media. And there's levels of managing social media, right? There's coming up with social media strategies and implementing social media strategies. And there's the very tactical work of literally doing posts and helping people interact with other accounts as well.
Okay. Glass half full's question, and then I'll get to Greta. Is it hard to get work done in co-working spaces? Do you get distracted? Is there etiquette?
I don't find it difficult to get work done in a co-working space. Different co-working spaces have different vibes. Some of them are very quiet. Even here in Tulsa, we have a co-working space with 2 locations, and the vibe in one location is different than the vibe in another. One of them is like super quiet. One of them is a little bit more active, I'd say. So really just depends. And most co-working spaces do allow you to book conference rooms. And they also have small phone booths where if you need to go and focus, phone booths are like just small rooms where you can take calls, but if you need to focus, you can move into those spaces. So what I would suggest you do, glass half full, is just try a few out and see what it feels like. There are times where it makes it easier for me to focus at a co-working space because at home I'm too distracted, and then vice versa. There's times where being at the co-working space is probably too distracting, so I just need to be at home. So for me, it depends on a number of things: the co-working space, my mood, all kinds of stuff. I'd say try a few out and see what it feels like to you.
All right, that's good advice. I'm about co-working spaces because if I gotta pay to go and I gotta get food separate, that's a lot for me. Like, because I'm eat, right?
No, I feel you.
My goal is to eat.
Some co-working spaces will let you try it out for free for a day. If you tell them this is my first time in a co-working space, I just kind of want to check it out. Some of them will be like, oh, well, we'll give you a free day, especially if you say you'll post about it on Instagram. So sometimes I say I post about co-working spaces quite a bit on Instagram. I'd love to like try this place out and tag it. But I'd say always ask the question, right? Ask if they'll give you a free day. They might say yes. I've definitely done that. And so the co-working space here in Tulsa Remote is free. Because I'm part of the Tulsa Remote program, they paid for a whole year of membership for me here. Actually, we have a free membership for 3 years here.
Oh, nice.
They just changed it to 3 years. And so I can also take a guest as well. So another thing that you could do is when you're in a location, reach out to some expat groups in advance of going somewhere, get into some expat groups and ask, what are the best co-working spaces, and ask people if they wouldn't mind you being their guest at the co-working space that day too.
That's a good idea. And even within a city, the co-working spaces are going to differ. Like there's a WeWork here that apparently has I think it has a waiting list to get it. Like it's so packed. There are at least 6 WeWorks in the city, I'm pretty sure, but there's one that is so crowded that like you gotta.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to work there.
And I'm like, that's not for me. That's not for me.
Someone did ask about college libraries. So I mentioned earlier that working at libraries is an option. Libraries are typically free. I don't know about college libraries because some of them are going to require you to show a college ID in order to access them. I know the college that I graduated from, they usually like to utilize that college for the library for the people that go to school there. But public libraries are definitely an option to work remotely from.
I didn't think people who went to your school could actually say that without shouting out the school itself. I didn't think you could reference it without. I'm impressed. You want to shout them out?
I see what you did there, Rashida. Yes, we are very, very proud of our school, to the point of completely conceited about our school. You see me rocking my orange today.
I see
representing. Right, quick.
You say my snake out loud today?
You see my snake ring? I went to FAMU, y'all. I went to Florida A&M University, College of the Year, a couple times, baddest band in the land, FAMU. I was born, raised, and educated in Tallahassee, Florida. Yeah, I went to FAMU. That's probably the first time I ever mentioned it without saying the name of my school.
Listen, I was like,
probably the first time I ever
done that. Didn't actually say.
FAMU person didn't say they went to FAMU. Hilarious.
Are people paid in US dollars or the country they're living in? This is a good and difficult question. You want to take it, Lib?
So I don't know if this was a response to me saying that people get paid to do social media. So
she asked earlier as well. So.
Earlier than that. Okay, cool. It depends. It depends. Some companies, I think, pay in the country that they're living in, and some companies pay US dollars. Keep in mind, not every global remote company is the US based. A lot of them are based in Australia or based in Europe. So a lot of these companies are global. They have global workforces, and some of them aren't even US based companies. So I'd say if it's a US based company, it's likely they're getting paid in US dollars. But that's something that you can always ask as well. So if you are, let me also add, if you are moving abroad and you're getting hired for one of these companies, or you're applying to a remote first company or a company that has a global workforce, that's a question you can always ask the recruiter up front, right? So do you guys pay in US dollars? Do you pay in, pesos, or whatever the case may be? My feeling is that if it's a US based company, they're likely paying you in US dollars, especially if you're a US citizen.
It's also important to know when we talk about going remote, will that impact your salary at all?
Yeah. Right.
These are conversations to have. If you're going remote, or if you're moving to another country to work for an employer, what do those numbers look like? Is there a difference? People who are taking jobs who are getting paid abroad, who are getting paid significantly less because they're getting paid in relationship to the cost of living of the place they're going. And that's hard for some people, right?
Yeah. So there are some companies, again, that a lot of these remote first companies, that's not what they're doing. There are companies like Oyster and YNAB and a few other like remote companies where they pride themselves on the fact that they tell their employees, please go live wherever you want and work. Those companies are not paying you based on the fact that you decided to leave the US and go stay in Mexico. These companies are like, listen, we embrace this idea of, I think Buffer is an example. We embrace this idea of you can do great work from wherever you are. Now, there's also this conversation, we hinted towards it earlier, about pay equity, global pay equity, right? Even in the US, the same job in Atlanta is not going to make the same amount as that same job in New York, because the cost of living is different. So I will say there are some nuances in there with, even if it's a global company, there are some challenges that they have to have, that they have on making sure that their pay scales are relevant and fair. One company I'd say that I call out is Remote. The name of the company is Remote. They're a global HR company. They basically help companies hire folks from anywhere in the world. And their handbook, their employee handbook and benefits handbook is public. So if you go to apply for a job there, they will give you access to their handbook. And in it, it talks about how there is a minimum pay. There's a minimum pay range no matter where you are in the world, right? And then there's some companies that will put in their job posting that in these locations, this is the pay range. So you can check that out as well.
Okay. Another great question from Celeste, but I think it's another one of those, it depends, which was, are most remotes a 1099 instead of a W-2?
There is no most in this situation, right? So if you want to work for a company as a contractor, there are opportunities to do that as a 1099 employee. I mentioned Toptal very early in this conversation. They hire contractors. Like, that's what they do. They hire developers, bookkeepers, virtual assistants, project managers as contractors, and they pay them 1099. And if you want to be a freelancer, if you choose to be a freelancer, which gets you a lot of times more flexibility, because you get to decide how many clients you want to take on, you get to decide how much work you want to do, you're going to get 1099s. But these remote companies, most of these remote companies, you're a W-2 employee.
Yeah. Okay. So for someone just joining us now, I'm going to ask you for 3 tips on starting from the beginning. 3 tips for finding a remote job.
Tip number 1 is download my free guide. Duh.
I don't think I've linked to that yet. Let me grab that.
freeguide.libryia.jones.com. Easy. Super easy. freeguide.libryia.jones.com. Yeah, download the free guide. I think, honestly, Rashida, step 1 for most people is accepting and believing that there are remote jobs that you can do. Because most folks are like, somebody said this, like, how do I get experience to work remotely? You already have experience to work remotely. You already have that, right? A lot of people think that I've got to be a developer, I've got to be in tech. Not true at all. Even if tech companies were the only ones hiring remote people, they need accountants, they need recruiters, they need project managers, they need finance people, they need all kinds of things. So step 1 is like accepting and believing that there are remote jobs out there for you. Step 2 is getting familiar with where remote jobs are. Like, where are the remote jobs? So there's an influx of remote jobs on the market now. So Indeed is fine, but I always tell people, like, hanging out on Indeed and LinkedIn, you're going to wear yourself out because you're filtering through a lot of stuff. So that free guide that she just shared, I actually give you websites that are specifically for remote jobs. Specifically for remote jobs. I actually, if you subscribe on YouTube, I have a video that talks about my 5 favorite places to find remote work too. So there's my 5 favorite remote job boards or something like that. So make sure you're going to the places where the remote jobs are, right? Instead of just hanging out on Indeed. If I had to give you an example, it's like, I need to buy a hammer. So I'm going to go to Walmart, and Walmart sells so much stuff. Like, you got to walk through all of these aisles to get to that hammer. You got to walk past the clothes, the socks, the cleaning supplies, the food to get to that hammer. That's what it's like looking for a remote job on somewhere like LinkedIn, right? Or monster.com. But you could just go to Home Depot and go straight to the hammers, right? So the example is remote.co is a website. It's called remote.co. Like, the whole job board is about remote jobs. We work remotely. Whole job board that is for remote jobs. So I think those are the 3 tips. 1, what did I say? 1, make sure. Download the guide. 1, download the guide. 2, accept and believe that it's possible. And then 3, make sure you're going to the places where remote jobs are. Can I add a 4th?
Yeah.
You got to apply for the jobs, y'all.
Ooh.
Like actually apply for the job. Because I'm gonna tell you something, wanting it ain't enough. Wanting it,
Ooh.
I know we're in this whole manifestation period of life these days. We talk about manifesting. Manifesting requires action. It does not require talking about it, telling your friends about it, writing it down. It also requires action. You need to hit the apply button. You don't need to wait until you meet 100% of the requirements. Do you meet most of the requirements? Do you meet 50% of the requirements? Hit the
Mhm.
apply button. Nothing bad's going to happen to you. The worst thing that will happen to you, the worst thing that will happen to you is that someone will ignore you and you'll still be doing the same thing that you're doing today. Hit the apply button, friends.
Okay. I think you're saying this because you see a lot of people who want to do remote work but aren't actually
They're doing
applying.
they're not doing anything about it. People are like, yeah, I really want a remote job. Okay, cool. What jobs have you applied for? Well, I was looking at, and I'm not ready yet. And I think I need to have. I actually just talked to a woman last week who wants to apply for a job at a specific company. They have this specific software that a lot of companies use. And she's currently in training for that software. And in her current job, she is a user of that software. Right. And so I was like, so
Okay.
when are you going to apply for the job for the software? She was like, well, I'm trying to get to the point where I'm qualified to do that. And I was like, you sound pretty qualified to do this. Like you are a user. Like that's some really, really great experience. Like you're on the other end of whatever you'd be doing. She basically wants to be the person that sets up this system for companies.
Right.
Who better to set up the system for companies than someone that's been using it? And so I was
Yes.
like, have you looked at the job posting? So we looked at the job posting together. Never once did that job posting say anything technical. It said we are looking for people that solve problems. We are looking for people that are communicative. We are looking for people that can take the initiative. Like, where in here did it say that you have to have all this technical stuff? And the fact that you're in training for this system already puts you in a good position. So you've done half the work yourself. They'll train you how to do the rest of it. So a lot of times people are like, well, I have to wait until. Nah, you don't. You really don't.
Chat is not.
Huh?
Like I said, chat is not waiting. Like
Chat
you
ain't
can do
waiting.
half the job. Listen, so in my old role, I used to interview people for jobs, and there were so many times where I'd be like, y'all are really talking about hiring this man who does not know how to do the work at all. Like this is killing me. Like I can talk to him and know he'll know nothing, but y'all want to hire him because you think he'd be a good fit.
But people other folks want to meet every single requirement. I spoke with another woman who was like, she wants to get into being a business analyst, another person that configures systems for people. And I was like, so why haven't you applied? She was like, well, I only know SQL. Who told you need to know more than SQL? Like, where did you get this information from? Also, if you know SQL, that means you can learn other languages. You can learn other coding languages. And I was like, and to be honest with you, business analysts don't need to know how to code. And if you don't know what SQL is, it's just basically how to write equations to get information out of a system. That's it. And I was like, girl, if you don't go apply for some jobs and stop playing. Someone asked a question that I wanted to address. I want to apply for project management roles, but I don't have experience as a PM. You a lie, you do. I'm telling you do. I'm gonna tell you, you do. How does one gain experience to eventually get a PM job? Listen to me, everybody. Most of you have project management experience. Almost every job has project management elements to it. All right, so let's play a game. I want you to say yes in the comments if you have done any of these things. All right, yes in the comments if you have ever had to take a process, event, or activity from start to finish. That could be, I have to process payroll every 2 weeks. That could be, I have to build lessons plans for my classroom. I have to host events for hotels, set up and host events for hotels, right? If you have had to take anything, a process or project, event, or activity from start to finish, that's project management. You are managing a project, friend. Every one of those payroll runs is a project, right? Have you had to report on the status of that? and communicate to multiple stakeholders. So you had to communicate to the people that are providing that information and the people that are going to use that information. Or you had to communicate with the people that are going to attend the event and the people that are hosting the event, right? Yes. And as an educator, you have to communicate with multiple departments. You have to communicate with the staff, the students, the parents. That's all project management. Like, y'all, look at all these project managers in your comments.
I see them.
I want you guys to stop, to unlock yourself from thinking because I didn't have the title, I didn't do the work. You don't have to be titled a project manager to have done project management work. So if you want to move into project management, what you need to do is look at your experience and say, what have I done in my experience that is similar to what project management managers do, or is exactly the same as what project managers do, and start building out your resume and speaking to the experience. Don't worry about the title. Speak to the experience. I do have a whole video on how to move into project management on my YouTube channel, so you can check that out too. But everything that I just said does not just apply to project management. It applies to a whole lot of things. I'm going to tell you something, Rashida. I can make my job at McDonald's be relevant experience to my job today. When I worked at McDonald's, like if I had to interview right now and that was the only thing on my resume, I could make it work. Okay. Dealing with difficult customers, having to work under pressure, having a sense of urgency, having to solve problems. I did all of that at McDonald's, right? Just because you didn't have the title does not mean you didn't do the work, friends. Yes, value your soft skills for sure.
All right, Libby is preaching here. So now she said it and you've heard her say it, are you going to actually do it? Right? Action. So Libryia said this a while ago and I cringed because it was, you know, when you hear about good advice and you're like, but I ain't doing all that. Like, it's great advice. It's going to get you where you need to go. You're like, I ain't doing all that. And it was something about, I think it was about like finessing your resume for each job you apply to. Yes, you said something about that.
So I do want to clarify that. So what I mean by that is, I don't want you guys spending 15, 20, 30 minutes every single time you want to apply for a job, right? So for me, I had two work templates. I had two resume templates. One was a project manager and another one was like process improvement analyst or something like that, right? And so they spoke to my background and my experience in different ways. And there are some things that every project manager does. Every project manager manages budgets, manages schedules, communicates with stakeholders, blah, 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 blah. But when I'm looking at jobs, they may be speaking to things in a different way than I'm speaking to it. They're using different keywords than I'm using. And so what I want to do is go ahead and tweak some of the things on my resume. I'm not writing a new resume. Let's be very clear. I'm not saying I'm writing a new resume. What I'm doing is I'm looking at these job applications and I'm seeing that, you know what? They said they're looking for somebody that's good at setting client expectations. I am good at that. And I didn't mention it in my resume. And they mentioned it 3 times in this job posting. So I better have it on my resume because they're doing searches just like we are, right? They're in their applicant tracking systems searching for the keywords that are most important to them. And if you don't have it, you're not going to show up. And so what I tell people is you may as well have driven there and put your resume in their garbage because they're never going to see it.
I wasn't expecting that, Liv.
You might as well just drive there like, hey, can I use your trash can right quick? I just want to drop this resume in it because they're just never going to see it. And so all I'm saying is when you're looking through the job posting, if you see some keywords that they've mentioned a few times that are really important, that's not on your resume, that are true for you. I'm not telling you to lie. Please don't do that. Things that are true for you, please add that to your resume. If it doesn't say good at setting client expectations or managing client relationships on my resume, and they said it in their job posting 3 times, you best believe I'm adding that to my resume. So this is like a little 5-minute task.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I know when she said it, I was like, this is excellent advice. Thank God I'm not looking for a job. But if you want a remote job, this is what you need to be doing. Like you need to be out there and you need to be applying for jobs and tweaking your resume as necessary so it doesn't end up in the trash and so that you get a fair shot. Story time. Before I got my last job, I was doing another job that was the exact role, except It was only I was doing twice. I was doing work on two parts and had nothing to do and the new job only needed me to do one part. So I was doing the exact work, but I was doing like twice as much work as I needed to do for the new job. The recruiter for the second company, went to the first, I guess, found people on LinkedIn from the first company I was working at. I'm the only person at the company who does the work. She happened to find a white man who did not do the work I did, but was on my same team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they interviewed him for the job. I had to reach out to the recruiter like, girl, I see this job and it's for me. So please pass on my resume to the hire. Not just it lined up because I changed things, but if you actually looked at my LinkedIn, which there are only a few of us that do this work in the country, so you can find me if you're looking. Look at my LinkedIn, it lines up exactly what you're looking for, and still found the white man who does not have this experience over me. So I had to send my resume is exactly what you're looking for. My LinkedIn with no changes is exactly what you want. Go on ahead and send this to the hiring manager. I had to tell her that, you need to send this to the hiring manager. The hiring manager was like, how did they not find you? I was like, I don't know. No, the hiring manager was like, oh, I'm so glad she found you. And I was like, she did not find me.
She did not find me.
I had to go out and say, no, y'all happen to find people at the company I work for, but you happen to miss me with the exact experience, right?
Wow.
The exact experience you're looking for. And you skipped over me to go to someone who had none of the experience you were looking for, but worked in the similar industry.
Yeah. And so, and I'll be honest, there's not a whole lot of ways to avoid or to get around other people's bias, right?
Yes.
We can't control that. I interviewed at a company not that long ago for a role, and I have a whole lot of consulting experience, a lot of it. I've been working in consulting since 2006. And I would have been the only woman on the team. They have one black man, an Indian guy, a bunch of white dudes, no women. I would have been the only woman on the team. And the reason they chose not to go with me is I didn't have enough technical experience. It's not a technical role. I've been working in technology for 10 years. It's not a technical role. A, and B, the guys that are in that have about the same amount of technical experience as I do and less consulting experience. They were like, we love you and we want to bring you on. Let's be clear. They were like, we love you. We want you to be at this company, but they wanted to offer me a project management role instead of that role. So we can do as much as we can. That's within our control, but we also have to not necessarily take it personal when we don't get picked, because we can't control other people's bias either.
Right. But my point was that sometimes it may require doing a little bit more, right? I had to reach that recruiter and be like, you don't want to leave me on the team. What you don't
want to do is miss out on me.
Right? Because they interviewed both of us and I'm the one they hired. I had to show my up and say this is the job for me. The hiring manager was
I love that you were so bold.
You gotta be bold. You gotta be bold. Most of us are coming from behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
And so you have to be bold and say y'all can play around if you want to, but I was like, you would want to get my resume to the hiring manager.
This is what you would want to do.
This is what you want to do. Guess who got hired? Not that guy, because he don't know what he was talking about. I did, right? You interviewed us both.
And the recruiter wasn't going to send your resume to the hiring manager, or the recruiter had never even checked for you.
I don't know, but they'd looked for multiple people who'd been at my company.
Got it.
And I'm the only one with the exact word for word experience of what they were looking for in the job.
How did you find out that they were looking for people at your company?
The guy who was a friend of mine, he described himself as my friend, and I was like, no, we're coworkers. He did not tell me about this company looking, but my someone who'd worked with me there and moved on to a different company, who said I was the best boss she ever had, called me like, they're recruiting me for a role here, and they also have this role and be perfect for you. I sent the job description to my mom, and she was like, it's like they wrote it for you. This is exact. I was like, Mom, if you can see that this is it, you don't know it. How did this recruiter not find me?
I don't know.
Right? Because in the company, it says we all work for the same company. You know who the
You know what
lawyers are.
happened? That recruiter popped up, your name popped up, and she was like, Rashida. No, I'm good.
No.
She was like,
Listen,
Rashida.
I got on one call with the hiring manager, and she was like, "How quickly can you make it to San Francisco?" I was like,
"We're done here,
right? We're done. We're done. I know if I can get to the hiring manager, that job is mine. So y'all need to be out here doing that. If you can get if you have the skills, don't let these people in the way get in your way.
I love that. I mean, so I would say this though. I also think that another thing that you're calling out is how important networking is as well, right?
Yes.
So you got this information through your network, and then you chose to network with the hiring manager as well. LinkedIn is available, y'all. You can go find these people. You really can. A lot of times I say that there's 3 people you should network with on LinkedIn. First is a recruiter, which is going to be harder to do. That's going to be your highest level of difficulty. Again, they are the IG models of LinkedIn. Everybody's trying to connect with them and slide up in their DMs. I will say also, though, it is their goal to get somebody hired. Like that's part of their KPIs, right? That's part of what's important for them to be good recruiters is to get people hired. So feel free to network with recruiters. Second person I tell you to network with is someone else in the same role, right? So if you're looking for a project manager role at, say, Amazon, find other people that are in project management roles at Amazon. That's going to be your least level of difficulty, right? They're going to be the easiest people to connect with. And you can slide up in their inbox and say, hey, I'm interested in working there. I'm just curious as to, how do you feel supported or how do you enjoy working there, right? Start off the conversation that way. The third person you should connect with is the person that would be your boss, right? Who does it look like would be your boss in this role? And which is basically what you did, Rashida. Like you reached out to the person that would essentially end up being your boss and say, hey, I want to make this easy. Because that person, to be honest with you, that person is already stressed out that they don't have somebody in this role. Because by the time they post these jobs, they already needed this person a month ago. Right. And they're frustrated trying to communicate to their recruiters, like what type of person I want. They're trusting someone else to make that decision. So if you can bypass that person and reach out directly to the hiring manager and say, here's why I'm the best fit for this. Here's why I'm going to alleviate the stress that you have about filling this position. Then you're golden. I love that you did that.
Listen, and because nobody else is going to advocate for you the way you advocate for yourself, if you're actually advocating for yourself.
Yeah.
If you're not sitting back in the cut and waiting for the job you want to come to you, and you're actually advocating, like Miss Missy called a job every day for a month. Now, see, I would have, after like 2 days, I'd have been like, well, I guess y'all don't want it, right? But she was determined and did that. And so if there are barriers in the way of the job that I knew when I saw that job description, I was like, well, this is my job. I wanted to move back to the Bay Area. It was exactly what I did. I said, okay, well, this is my job. So like all the people in the way, my friend who didn't tell me about the job, even though it's a perfect fit, and didn't mention me for the job, even though it's a perfect fit, who didn't get the job because he wasn't a perfect fit. No, child, he told the other woman who was applying there for a different role there that he's going to apply for it. And after they give it to him, he doesn't think he wants to move out there. So he's going to tell me about it after they give him the job. And I was like, what?
It makes no sense. Okay, I can't.
Besides your ego, what was the point of that?
This makes no sense. That makes absolutely no sense.
Your ego. Like it's he knew I wanted to be back in the Bay Area. Like besides your ego, what was the point of saying, yes, this would be this is the perfect job for Rashida, but I'm not going to tell her until I decide to turn it down.
Okay.
All right. So you never got an opportunity to turn it down because I stepped in there.
It wasn't for you, friend. It wasn't for you in the first place. Good day.
It wasn't for you. Good day.
But you know something, I just feel like better things come to you when you do great things for people, right? So if you wanted that job, like if there have been opportunities that have shown up for me that I'm like, oh, I would love this, but I know someone who would be a better fit. Yes. I have definitely told some friends, like, I'm going to apply for this job, but I think you should apply for it too. Right? I'm not trying to block nobody else's blessings because it's something I want. If it's meant for me, I'll have it. Right? Like, I just don't need that kind of karma in my life. Yeah.
So Miss Missy says, my paperwork name is Mildred. People always expect an older white woman to show up. Yes. All right. Yeah. That is. I feel like it's also an old Black woman name, but it's an old name.
An old woman's name. It's definitely she's either Black or she's white. And at one point in her life, she worked in the cafeteria as well.
Yes.
Somebody asked
Milk and cook.
what happened when you told this guy that you got that job?
How would I have told him? You mean like
I
if we spoke
didn't
together?
know I was gone.
We weren't working at the same place anymore. He had moved on to somewhere else, but another place where he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't even in the same industry anymore. So they found him from the employer that we shared, who he's no longer at. So we weren't working together. So there was no reason for us to talk. And so when that happened, I was like, if you weren't going to tell me about it, you'll see when you'll know through the.
He saw the LinkedIn update.
You saw it on LinkedIn when I updated it. It's fine.
He saw that LinkedIn update. He saw that fresh update on LinkedIn.
We were literally in the city at the same time, and I knew it. Like I had an interview one day, he had an interview the next day, and I knew it, but he didn't know. And I was like,
"That is too funny."
It's fine. Like you know this is my job, and you out here trying to get my job. You're not gonna move your family, your whole family.
I just want people to be better. Like if you say something that's good for me, like let's just send it over because you might never know. They might have multiple jobs. Somebody did ask me about staying in Tulsa remote after the year. Where did that question go? With the Tulsa remote program, after your year, do you get to relocate and still work with the company, or is it only a 1-year contract? So I called out this question because I want to clarify something. I don't work for Tulsa Remote. Tulsa Remote is a program organization set up to incentivize people to move to Tulsa. And so it basically their goal is to increase the economic impact in Tulsa, right? To improve the economy here. And so they want people to move here, stay here, buy houses, set up businesses, buy things, all of that. No one works. We don't work for Tulsa Remote. Right. So the contract is a 1-year contract just that says I'm going to live within the city limits of Tulsa for 1 year. And in exchange for that, they'll give me $10,000 and free access to a co-working space. I don't work for Tulsa Remote. I still work for the same company I worked for before I moved here. And so they're specifically targeting people who already work remotely for some company. And no, you don't have, yes, I can relocate if I want to. After the year. So you can relocate whenever you want. You just will have to pay them their money back. Of course, right? I can relocate if I want to right now. But yeah, in order to keep the $10,000 that they paid me, I have to be here in Tulsa in the city limits. I have to live here for a year. I don't necessarily have to be here for that whole year. Yeah.
Okay. And you're still a fan of the Tulsa Remote program, right?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent program. I think that Rashida, I'm really big on community. So I've built 3 communities at this point, right? I built the community that I took around the world for a year. I've built Wandering Moms, which is a community of over 22,000 women who love to travel with their kids and without their kids. And I've built the Quit Commuting, this remote work community as well. So community is really important to me. And Tulsa Remote has done an incredible, incredible job of not just building, but nurturing a community. I feel very nurtured here. They are very, very good about making sure that there's stuff to do. Like there's always things to do, but they make so many investments in either our professional development, but also in our specific interests. So like if you want to be in leadership positions, they're going to connect you with people to do that. If you say, you know what, I want to focus on like my passion, I'm into theater, right? They'll start connecting with people. So it's a beautiful community. It's an excellent community. And I'm having a good time here for sure.
Good. All right. What haven't we covered? Liv, what do you think? Oh, no, wait. So I wanted 3 tips for finding your remote job. We already did that.
Yeah.
3 tips for keeping your remote job and living your best life.
Keeping your job and living your best life. Child, do your work. I feel like we're in this space where everybody is so bold and it's all fun and games on Instagram about like what we doing working remotely, like chilling on the couch and taking naps and sleeping. And we're all in this place of boundaries which is not something I'm really big on. Have boundaries, but like do your work. You know what I'm saying? Like we want to work remotely. We want to be on the beach. We want to do all these things, but in the time frame and in the space where you were supposed to be working, just, be excellent, right? Be excellent at your job, take control of your career. So number one, you said keeping your remote job, right? And living your best life. Number one is showing up with excellence at work. that's going to go a long way to get you what you're asking for, right? I mentioned brand equity earlier. I have a high level of brand equity. I've got great leverage at my company because they know that when I am there, I am working. When my hands are on this keyboard or when I'm showing up for a meeting, I'm giving them, I'm adding value. I'm giving them 100%, right? So, let's prioritize work when it needs to be prioritized. So that's number one. Number two is, set some boundaries. The whole living your best life is about setting boundaries. So figure out what your boundaries are. And for me, boundaries are important because, I didn't come to this planet to work. I came to this planet to live. Like I came here to live. Right. And so those boundaries create a space where I get to make sure I'm prioritizing life. Work is only a part of my life, but I came here to be living. And so we always talk about work-life balance. In my mind, it should be life-work balance. The living part comes first. So make sure you're setting those boundaries, and boundaries can look like whatever you want them to look like. For me, it's if I'm on vacation, I'm on vacation. I'm not working. Like, don't call me, don't email me. You know how people put on in their emails, I'm traveling with limited access to email. Nah, I actually do have access to email. I just ain't accessing it. Good day. Mine says I will be gone on this day and I will return on this day and I will respond when I return. I'm not going to tell you what kind of access I have to email. We all know how the internet works. I have access to email. I'm not accessing it.
Real quick, I came back from vacation once and took down everybody's the docket had all of our numbers on our contact information and gave him a new one without my cell phone number on it. Because while I was on vacation, one of my coworkers gave it to a customer. Customer called me on vacation, an internal customer inside the business. But I was like, y'all apparently do not know how to deal with sensitive information. And my phone number is sensitive information. And so if I wanted that client to have my number, they would have it. They didn't have it. And they came to you and you get... None of y'all, not a single one of y'all can text me anymore. Not a single one of you has.
Listen, I don't save babies.
No,
I'm
don't.
Not
curing cancer. It's not cancer.
And I personally don't have the cure for COVID. So there's really no reason for you to be contacting me.
There's no emergency.
Right? None of what we're doing is an actually emergency. Right. So when I'm off work, I'm off work. But I'm going to add this. I'm going to go back to what I said before. Don't be mad that people are contacting you about the work that you didn't do before you were supposed to leave. Yes. Right. So have boundaries, but within your boundaries. And I don't look at my boundaries as like, this is where I say no. My boundaries are the range of yes. Within my boundaries are the space where I work best. Within my boundaries. This is the space that I work best. So I need you to work with me in this space. I do not work best on vacation. Right. So my range of yes is when I am here and present for work.
Okay.
But it is very important that if you're going to have boundaries, that in that range of where you work best, you actually work best. Yes. Work your best. Don't be mad that somebody hit you up about a report you were supposed to run before you went on vacation, y'all. Have some accountability, okay?
No. For me, it was like, this just came up right now and it's an emergency. Is somebody dying? Because if not, it's not an emergency. It'll wait. Like literally, it's an emergency for you because you're at work. You don't know what to do.
Yep. And story time.
If I'm the only person that can solve this problem, give me the space I need to decompress so that I don't leave here forever, right? Because I'm the only person apparently who can solve this problem for you. So you need me. So I cuss that man smooth the fuck out for calling me on vacation. Like you know I'm on vacation. Like you, and I mean I talk to him crazy at work all the time anyway. It was an okay person to cuss out, but it was like, you know, I'm on vacation and you know this can wait. So just because you want an answer today doesn't mean no.
Yeah. No. So story time. I actually spoke on this topic at the Black Enterprise Women of Power Summit 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
There. You know, I just think, we did a whole panel on boundaries, and afterwards this woman comes up to me, and she's a VP of a company. She reports to a C-suite. If you don't know what C-suite is, it's like CEO, CFO, CIO, people who make a lot of money. And she said she's so frustrated because he keeps stepping over her boundaries. Like, for instance, she'll go on vacation with her family and he'll call her while he's on vacation and ask her to do stuff, and she does it. And something's off or she doesn't do her best, and then he wants to criticize her for doing the work, right? And so I sat there and listened to her talk. She said another situation where he called her while she was having eye surgery and asked her to do something. She was supposed to be out to get eye surgery, and he called her and asked her to do something. She did it, didn't do her best, and got criticized for it. So at the end of this, I said, so it sounds to me like you're upset with him for not respecting your boundaries when you are not respecting your boundaries. Right. So again, back to accountability. You are responsible for your own boundaries. Nobody else is. And half the time, and she was like, well, he knew I was on vacation. I said, it's possible he forgot. It is not his job to keep up with your schedule either. Right. You answered the phone. You said yes. You said, yes, I'll do this work. So have some accountability. You are the one. Your boundaries are yours. And we can be upset with people for overstepping them, but if you're the one that's overstepping them, like, who are we really mad at here, right? And so what I told her to do is, one, don't answer the phone anymore. Or you can just send back a message and say, hey, I'm on vacation. I'll respond when I return. The second thing is, start to have conversations with him about the fact that, something, I said, when you get back to work, this is what I want you to do. Get in a meeting with him and say, something, the last 2 times I agreed to do some work on vacation, I end up not doing my best. I can't do my best work on vacation. So what I'd like to do is, she said she had another vacation coming up in 2 weeks. Go ahead and prep for that vacation. What do you need from me before I leave? Because I want to give you my best. I won't be able to do any work on vacation. Mm-hmm. This is the space in which I work my best, right? Yes. So focus on it that way, right? So again, it's accountability. You got to own your own boundaries. You can't expect other people to own them either.
Right. For me in that job,
I'm not talking about you. Your situation was totally different. No. That was messed up. They had to get them people your phone number.
But the reason that it resonated so deeply for me was because that was the same job where our boss wouldn't allow us to work from home because she didn't think we were really working, because we could only do what we could do on the phones, even though we had these laptops and a little dongle to log in, whatever. If I can't work from home because I can't do real work, what are you doing expecting me to work on my vacation? Like, how is this? How is this? Where's the disconnect here, right? If I am not responsible enough to work from home and get work done, why do you think I'm responsible enough to work on my vacation? What?
Well, make it make sense. Let's play Make It Make Sense.
I said, no, baby. Like, we're not. You can have emergencies, but if I can't solve it on my phone, if I can't just forward you an email I already have, it's not getting done on vacation.
It's not getting done. Yeah. I had another woman say that she runs a call center, and she gave her team, or she's a manager at a call center, and she gave her team her work number, her personal number. And she said to only use my personal number during emergencies. And she was like, and people are constantly sending me messages on my personal number that aren't emergencies. How do I get them to respect my boundaries? I said, baby, you didn't create a boundary. Like, give me a reason why anybody would need your personal number at a call center.
You have
like, why would anybody need your personal number? Number one, your boundary was that you have a work number. That was the boundary. You give them the work number. You didn't create any boundaries, and she thought she created a boundary by saying only contact me in emergencies, but you left it to them to define an emergency. You left it to them to define what an emergency is. So for me at a call center, if I'm, you know what, my daughter's prom is this weekend, and we went to pick up her dress, and the dress don't fit, so we got to go find another dress because prom is in a few hours. This like literally happened to me for my prom. Like my dress wasn't ready. It didn't fit. 10 minutes before prom, I had to go find another dress. And so I'm going to be late to work because I got to go take my daughter to find another prom dress. That's an emergency to me. Right. To me. So she left it to somebody else to define what an emergency is. 2 things, baby. 1, you need to change your phone number, because no one at a call center needs your personal number. Maybe one person, maybe the manager on site may need to contact you in an emergency if all the phones go down or something. Say, here's the situation under which you should use my personal number. All of the phones went down. That is honestly the only thing I can think of why they would need to have our personal number. And thing 2, you didn't create a boundary at all because you have a work number. That is the number they should contact you on. Good day.
We had a federal regulator. I said, if the federal regulator shows up in the building, only reason to call me. Only reason to call me is that the man has stepped in and they're trying to shut us down. Like that's otherwise. What are we talking like?
What are we talking about? Girl, my in my business, my auto responder used to say, if it's an emergency, and by emergency I mean like the whole country of Thailand is out of noodles, then you can contact me on my cell phone. Like so somebody said if they're paying me to respond off hours, they're paying for my cell phone. I will say, if you work in consulting, your phone number is in your email. And your company does pay for your cell phone. So my phone number is in my email, and my company absolutely does pay for my cell phone. Here's the thing. If a client calls me after hours, I simply do not answer. Because the other thing I want to tell people about boundaries is you have to accept also that people are doing things in a time frame that's best for them. So sometimes I may be online late at night reading through some documents and be thinking something. So I'm going to send a note to my team. Just because I'm sending this note at 9 o'clock does not mean I expect a response at 9 o'clock. This is the time that I carved out or that I took to focus on this. You can respond to me in your business hours. Just because people are reaching out to you and emailing you and anything like that doesn't mean you owe them a response in that moment, right? So my clients absolutely have my cell phone number. My coworkers absolutely have my cell phone number. If they call me after hours, they can leave me a voicemail and I will respond to them during business hours. Yeah. So I'm not even mad at them for overstepping that boundary. Like, you're doing the things that are right for you. And I'm going to do what's right for me, which is holler at you tomorrow.
I'll holler at you tomorrow. If I answer this phone and you're on some BS, you are going to get told not to call me when I'm on. Like, you know, communication. You had to go to somebody else and get my number because you don't have it.
You're still mad about this.
I cuss out the person who gave my number to. I cuss them out. I cuss out both of them. The one who called me and the one who gave out my number. You know,
this is hilarious.
Better than that. Like,
this is hilarious. Yeah, somebody else was like, executives expect us to respond to messages, you know, late at night and all hours of the day. And me and another panelist were like, do they? Like, did they actually say that? Or do you feel pressure? Have you put this pressure on yourself that just because they sent you a message means you need to respond? A lot of times executives, people at the executive level and manager level, they're in meetings all day. So the only time they actually have to sit down and do thought work is late at night. And so they might be sending messages as they're doing that thought work. That doesn't mean they need you to respond immediately. They're just getting it out of their brains in that moment. But did they tell you they expected a response during that time? If they did, then it's a problem. Otherwise, it might be the pressure that you're putting on yourself about what you assume they want, right?
And if you have that pressure, whether it's internal or external, and it's making you uncomfortable, there's too many jobs out here for you to, you know what I mean? Like, at least look. Y'all, if you haven't looked for a new job in 5 years, do that today. Even if you love your job, look and see what's out there. Because you could love your job and still get more money to do something else that you love just as much, right? If you hate your job, today's the day. Sit down. Open up some of these websites Libryia was talking about. Find a job. Like, the jobs are out. Listen, everybody's quitting, right? It's the great resignation. It is an employee's market. Go out there. Look, even if you are like, you know what? I never even thought about getting a new job. Look, just to see what's out there. Just see if there's anything out there that you would take seriously.
I honestly recommend, like, whether you're whether you're like, I'm over my job or not, every about 6 months, something like 8 months, twice a year, go out into the market and see what's out there. Right? Go to the market, because it'll do a couple of things, right? It'll keep your skills up to date, right? It'll keep you just on top of things and seeing what other jobs are in the market. It'll also help you make sure that your salary is on track, right? So it'll help drive the conversations you need to have about your salary. And then 3, it'll just make you feel more in control and more powerful about your career. Right? Don't look for a job just because I need to get out. Like, don't wait until I need to get out. I need to go. It also helps with networking. So right now, if I needed to leave, I could still reach out to that company that I mentioned earlier that didn't hire me for the role that I wanted, but they still want me there. So I could always reach out and say, hey, you know what? I've actually gained a little bit more experience. I'd love to talk about applying for this role again, or something like that. Right? So I'd say every at least once a year, maybe twice a year, get out into the market and see what's out there, right? Remind yourself that you still got it. Because a lot of y'all feel stuck at work.
Yes.
A lot of y'all feel like You are stuck.
Yes.
Nobody drug you out of the house and made you work at this company. You applied for it. You did that. You are not stuck there. So you need to go remind yourself you still got it.
Definitely. Definitely. Okay. Do we have any other questions? I feel like we've been doing this for a while.
We've been talking for like 2.5 hours.
Yes. Which I want you guys to know that if you hear me say, "Ooh, we've been doing this for a while," it means I'm hungry. That's what it means. It means my body's like, time to wrap it up.
That's your code word for I need to go eat.
This is my way of saying I got to go eat, y'all. So if you have any last questions, get them in. Right? Did we get through all 3 of how to get the job? Oh, you know what? You spoke about excellence, about being excellent at work. And I want to say, be excellent if that excellence is paying off. Be excellent if your excellence is being recognized. Do not let striving for excellence kill you if these people will never recognize your excellence. So often we're told that we've got to be better, we've got to do more. And for some jobs and some roles, there's no amount of better or more that will get you the recognition you deserve. So if excellent gets you 3 out of 5 stars on your review, and average gets you 3 out of 5 stars on your review, and the same pay and the same bonus, why are you killing yourself for excellent, right? Like that's my personal opinion.
Yeah. And I want to be clear, when I say be excellent, I don't mean like go above and beyond and do all this extra stuff. And like, I'm not here for it's black tax is over. Like we're over that. You got to be 2 times as good to get half as much. No, hell no. But what I'm saying is put yourself in a position that, you know, if it comes to it. So for instance, the example that I gave earlier where I didn't show up for a meeting, I ended up being late for a meeting. That's not normal for me. So no one's giving me a hard time about that because they know that typically I show up when I'm supposed to show up, right? So I'm not saying I love that you pointed that out. When I say be excellent, what I'm saying is make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? Mm-hmm. Like make sure you're at quality work. But I am absolutely not saying you need to do 3 times the work that XYZ is doing to get half the recognition. I'm not here for that. I actually just did a post about people getting treated like cauliflower at work.
I saw that.
And broccoli just over here chilling, being itself. Like they got you doing all the extra things. And there's no clear path to promotion or additional pay or compensation for you doing all this extra stuff. Mm-hmm. I was about to say a different word.
I say it all the time. It's okay. On this channel, you should be like, oh, that girl be cussing, huh? We're not gonna give her all this ad money. She be over there just cursing. I like this comment from Health Then Wealth. I apply to positions I believe I'm not qualified for every 6 months. Testing the waters really keeps me fresh and on my toes. To recognize that you are not qualified for something, you're either selling yourself short or you're looking at it realistically. Either way, it doesn't matter. Apply, right?
Apply.
That's like literally those are the jobs you should be applying for. Jobs you don't think you're qualified for because you probably are qualified. You probably even
are. You know what I like to tell people, Rashida? You're not qualified to decide if you're qualified. Like it's not your job. You're not the one posting the job. You're not the hiring manager. So you are not qualified to decide if you are qualified enough for the job that I want, right? Because you may have some skills that I didn't think to put on this job posting. Right. You know what I'm saying? I hired a project manager who didn't have a whole lot of technical skills, but she had a degree in communication. That was never something I would consider. Like usually when we hire project managers, they have a background in either business administration, engineering, stuff like that, because of the problem solving focus, right? But she came from like journalism school. She had a background in communication. And I'm like, you know what? Projects fail? Lack of communication. I'm gonna holler at this girl. But if she had decided not to apply because her resume didn't match the job, didn't have everything that I said, then she never would have gotten that opportunity. So it's someone else's job to decide if you're qualified, dude. It's not yours.
Mm-hmm. All right, friends. I think we got to wrap it up because truly, I'm like, where them chips at? What's going on? Okay. Thank you for being here at Libryia. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm speaking on a day of the Quick Community Conference.
First day. You're speaking on day 1, 4/21.
Okay.
About living my best life abroad. It's you, my girl Sienna, who lives in Spain, my girl Brittany, who lives in Thailand, and Raven is actually moderating it. So,
hey, awesome. Okay. All right. So super excited about that. Libryia has given you all the cheat codes today. There's her free guide, her YouTube channel, her remote work bundle. There's the Quick Commuting Conference, and there's the Quick Commuting Academy. All of those links are in the live chat right now, and I'll add the ones to the description that aren't already there. You don't have a reason to not be applying for a remote work job this week.
I almost like want people to come back and like drop a comment a week from today and say I applied.
Yes, a week from
homework.
today. Let us know. Let us do it today. It's Sunday. You ain't doing nothing. Come on.
You ain't doing nothing. It's like,
so people commented earlier, but it takes them a long time to find a job that they want, and that might be true. It might take you a long time to find the ideal job, but will it take you a long time to find a job that's better than the one you have right now?
Yeah. I will also say, like, let's be realistic. It takes on average 90 days for anybody to find a job. Like, that's just the average. It takes about close to 90 days to find a job. And sometimes I've seen it happen faster. I've seen people land jobs within 2 weeks of getting my bundle, right? I've seen people land jobs within a month of getting my bundle, right? I can tell you this, you will not find a job or land a remote job if you're not applying for them. That ain't gonna happen. That's not something I know for sure. Huh?
All right. I think some of these people are treating the remote work, I'm typing and talking at the same time, treating remote work like I treat dating. Like, if you're not going to show up at my door, then I guess it's not going to happen, right? Like
if I don't just happen to stumble and fall into a relationship, it's not happening. Yeah, I need y'all to, you gotta go for it. You gotta go after it. And it's not enough to say I applied for 2 or 3 jobs this week. Like, that's just not enough.
Wait, Loving Your Joy says, I applied today to 3 while listening. And
I'm talking about, yeah, girl. Good luck. Action. I'm so excited for you.
Yes. And Jenny Bean, I just dropped the link to remote.co again. All right, y'all. We got this. Y'all got this.
We talked about so much today. This is fun.
We need to do this more often. I really enjoyed it. But Libryia is working her butt off on the conference. So if you drop comments here or on her channel or anywhere, we didn't drop your IG. Let's drop. Are you following Libryia on IG? We didn't drop that today.
Follow your girl. Follow your girl.
Follow Libryia. But if she didn't get back to you right away, it's because she's trying to make the conference the best it could possibly be.
Listen.
And as someone who's run a conference, I know.
Girl, you know what I'm going through.
Woo! Okay, so that's
that conference, especially the first one. Especially the first one, because the first one is usually the hardest, right? Crazy enough, it doesn't get that much easier. The only thing that gets easier is like, you know what to expect. You expect to work
or you change the format a little bit. That's the only way it gets easier. But this is bigger than last year, isn't it? In some ways,
we have more people attending. I think we have about the same number of sessions.
Okay.
In total, we've pared it down just a little bit, so some of the sessions can be longer. But yeah. Oh, thank you. Somebody said I was amazing. Ha.
I don't think Libryia is coming to meet us in July because she's going to be in Portugal. Which, I
wasn't invited until this moment. But it says it's an expat meetup. I'm not an expat currently, so that might.
So it's really for anyone who's in. I never talk about it on this channel, but we are doing a meetup for people who are like in the Exodus Summit family.
Oh,
in July in Cancun, and you're definitely in the Exodus Summit family. So let me find.
Yes, I am.
Link. Since if you guys don't know, Libryia spoke at our first summit.
I did.
A link that works and drop it here.
I didn't even know. You probably posted about it. Might have missed it.
We have some Facebook groups where we shared it.
Oh,
but not that publicly yet. So
it's kind of been
sharing it. But this is the meet. No, let me.
Do we need to talk offline?
No, I think I almost broke a non-spoken rule, which is we're not sharing it publicly yet, but we are sharing the group. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna give y'all Facebook.com, the link to the group to get more information. And the reason we want it to be really clear, we're not sharing the direct link to buy the ticket outside of the group is because there are specific things you need to know, and we cover them all in the group. So like, it is a group, it is a meetup for Black women only. So
check.
If you yes, so you can join the group. We get you information. I can even send you the link. But like, we don't want people to bring your kids and then be told at the door, like, no, you can't come in.
Oh, that's true too.
Right.
I ain't bringing my kid.
A woman the other day was like, I want to bring my non-Black friend. And I'm like, that's cool, but she's gonna be waiting for you in the parking lot. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
So we can't keep her out of Mexico. She is welcome to come to Mexico.
Yes. Your kids are welcome to come. I suggest you find groups of people who can babysit each other's kids. We're gonna be on a boat drinking and partying. Your man ain't invited.
One time for spaces. Right? Yeah, y'all ain't have to put my girl on the spot asking, am I coming to this? I'm just playing. No, that's good to know. It sounds really good. Thanks for dropping the link. I'm going to check it out. Yes. I do plan to be in Portugal in July. So we'll see.
Francis in here checking me, talking about I'm sharing. I'm not. I gave the link to the group, not to because we haven't publicly released for sale the ticket outside of that group yet. But yeah, so there are because community is really important to what you said before, Libryia. We want people who want to move abroad to have community, and we've been building this Exodus Summit community for a while, but we've never actually met up in person. So this will be our first in-person meetup, and we're super excited.
Rashida and I have never met in person. We've known each other for so long.
We have never met in person. So, but I mean, like that's what life looks like for a lot of us right now. It's like very intentional. That's why when you said Portugal, I was like, let me actually look at some points and see if I can do this.
How about you, girl, man? How about you? Me and Raven are going.
I was trying to stop by Medellin sometime this summer to see Raven. So now I know don't do it in July. So
she won't be there. No, we headed to Portugal. Come through.
All right, y'all. All right. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out with us. There was a lot of you guys here today, and I appreciate it. Must go eat, though. Must go eat. Thank you for your time, Libryia.
Thank you.
The conference is everything you hope it is. And I know y'all gonna get jobs. Show up there. People are recruiting at the conference too, right?
Yes. Netflix, Guidewire, Indeed, and there's one more. Remote. Remote is actually one of my favorite remote companies. I love them. They're such a great company. But yeah.
So if you're looking for a remote job, you should be at the Quick Commuting Conference.
Come through.
Come through. All right, y'all. Bye. Till next time.